Okay. I have clicked the buttons, turned the knobs, pushed the dials, all those things. We are live once again for yet another episode of WhickTV, a cross-ideological space where we come together to talk about issues both political and cultural, from the silly to the serious. Gang, I wasn't going to stream tonight, but then I saw what occurred last night and I just had to. I had to talk about this. This is something that is relevant. The iron is hot, and we need to discuss it. This goes to the very core of what it means to have free speech in America. For those of you who don't know, for the past few weeks, there have been protests on multiple campuses across the U.S., from Columbia to the UCLA, Florida campuses to the University of Texas, on both private and public colleges. This has sparked a wide variety of responses from both the public at large as well as university administrations. And we're going to talk about it tonight. Last night, Columbia called in the New York Police Department to arrest the protesters who had barricaded themselves inside of Hamilton Hall, I believe it was, one of the buildings on campus. As well, in Los Angeles at the UCLA, there was a group of pro-Israel protesters who attacked an encampment of anti-Israel protesters, and it had some violent results. But we're going to talk about all that. We'll get into it. I'd like to thank everyone for being here. I'd like to thank my guests for coming today, and we're going to just start the ball rolling. I'm going to pass the ball to Principles Before Politics. What are your thoughts on this? Get us started. Go ahead.
All right. So basically, the only thing I'm really interested in talking about with regards to this is the issues related to speech and protest. I'm not particularly concerned about the content. The same thing goes for the counter protesters. We're talking about the behavior, not about the message they're trying to send. The situation at Columbia and UCLA is, in my opinion, a failure of leadership. These folks absolutely should have been the police should have been brought in sooner, and you could have had a much less large-scale event taking place.
Okay, thank you. We'll get into it as we go, I'm sure. Let's pass the ball to Omar. Go ahead.
Hello, everyone. This is Omar from the third grade. I hope everybody's doing fine. What happened this week was the most disgusting thing that has ever happened in my lifetime. When the three elements of corruption in society, corporate media, the political class, and the economic elites came together and demonized these students and called them anti-Semite. All of a sudden, these students who are in the best schools in this country wake up one day and decided to be anti-Jewish, started attacking Jewish students, not taking into consideration most of the protesters were Jewish. In the end, the New York Post said they had a headline with this girl said she was stabbed by a Palestinian flag in her eye. She went on Piers Morgan, her eyes were beautiful. There were nothing happened. And last night we saw who are the real enemies, who are the real liars, when the supposedly victims, Jewish students, attacked the peaceful encampments in UCLA. It is a failure of leadership. It is a corruption in our political class who are under the control of AIPAC. Yesterday, I looked up at AIPAC. Out of the 100 senators, 97 out of 100 get money from the Jewish lobby called AIPAC. Thank you.
We will get into that as we go, I am sure. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Next up, Kevin Logan. What are your thoughts?
Hello there, everyone. Yes, I am genuinely heartened by the protests happening on both US campuses, but around the world. But we're specifically talking about the US today. The show of solidarity from both the student bodies of various learning institutions, as well as the faculty, and in some cases, although be rather rarely, unfortunately, the administration staff and the kind of leaders of these organizations. I think it's the closest America has ever come to a genuine awakening on this topic in a way that I've never seen before. It would have been unthinkable to even have such protests even 10 years ago, I think. So I think it's a sign that A, Israel has overplayed its hand, and B, that they've lost certainly world opinion in some respect, and they may have to change on that basis, and that's probably quite good. Also, I think the use of police in this situation is especially galling in some respects, because if the idea is to make to solve this problem peacefully, the last thing I think you would do is call in the NYPD, an organisation that seems almost uniquely suited to escalating violent situations into incredibly violent situations where it needn't be that way. So I've been genuinely heartened by the solidarity, but also disgusted by the way in which certain people in media, academia, and politics have reacted to it.
Counterpoints computer froze. He'll be back in a second, gang. Don't worry. But Kevin, thank you for your comments. We will get into it as we go. So I can kill a little time before Counterpoints gets back to give his thoughts. I initially, when I saw these police being called in, especially during the University of Texas, again, I think that the police response was disproportionate. I think it was overplaying their hand. I don't think they should have been called in the first place in Texas. But the problem with this topic, the problem with this this discussion, and one of the things that I hope we can avoid tonight, is conflating these different protests. Not all of them are the same, right? The actions of what they were doing in Texas are not the same as what was going on in Colombia, and that's not the same of what's happening in UCLA, and that's not the same of what's happening in these other protests.
Wick,
right?
are you doing? Is this your opening statement, or can I interject at this point?
You can interject. We're killing time till Connor gets back.
Yeah. Which of the protests? Maybe it would be, I think, interesting to elucidate from your perspective, because I'm a person who follows you on the Twitters. Which of the protesters you were referring to, albeit possibly jokingly, when you retweeted a thing about sending pro-Palestinian students to Iran and allowing pro-Western Iranian students into the United States? Which of the campuses were you looking to send to Tehran?
That was a response. I retweeted a quote tweet to the Iranian president Khamenei. I don't know how to say his name. I'm sorry, but he offered that those who had been expelled for protesting in Palestine could come and attend Iranian colleges for free. And the response that I was retweeting was just a joke about how, sure, we can swap. We can have the liberal protesters in Iran who had been raped and murdered, basically is what happened to the Iranian protesters, come over here and we'll give you ours. And I thought that was just funny.
I want to ask you a question, Wick.
Sure.
What was the demands of the students in Colombia, if you know?
In Colombia specifically, I believe divestment was one of the demands, but they also...
was it that bad? I mean, is it that bad to ask for that?
They wanted disclosure of investment as well.
Yeah, there's a few. So there's 5 main demands that I'm sure of. I don't know all of them off the top of my head.
Do you think they were anti-Semite and they were beating up Jewish students?
If I may, you asked me a question. If I could answer.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Divestment, disclosure. They also wanted lack of prosecution. They wanted no punishment for the students, whether it be by law or through the faculty. There's a couple others that I'm not sure about off the top of my head, so I won't repeat them. But those were, as I understand it, their main demands. But before we go on, Counterpoints is back. Hopefully it's working. So we're going to pass the ball to him. What are your thoughts on these protests, my friend? Go ahead.
Yeah, of course I have the normie centrist take. And then did I knock somebody else out?
What is going on with the tech, gang? Did they get him?
Listen, it's 6 p.m. EST. We're just getting off of work. We got to set up all our stuff. So, anyways, no. In reference to the protests, listen. I love that part of what makes this country great is we are free to express our opinions and we're free to express our conscience in public as long as we're not advocating for violence or crimes. I think that's one of the things that makes this great. Also, I think that there is something to be said that just because it's illegal doesn't make it immoral. So if there's students who feel like they need to take extra procedural or extra legal means in order to accomplish a goal, then that's totally on them as people of conscience. However, extra legal and extra procedural means that you have to be willing to suffer extra legal, or you have to be willing to suffer legal and procedural consequences. So saying like, hey, we can take over your buildings, we can smash stuff, we can spray paint stuff, we can shoot fireworks at people, we can beat people up, we can take over your spaces, we can bar Jewish students from attending school, we can interrogate students about
That's
whether
a
or not
lie.
they're
That's a
Zionists or
lie.
not. It's a lie. It's a
Yes.
lie. What
Yes,
part of
it's a
have
lie.
I lied
Well,
about? Please tell me.
preventing Jewish students from going. Come on, guys. Let's be honest, man. Let's not treat these
Yeah,
people
let's
as
be honest. I can go find a clip right now of a Jewish student who basically says, "Hey, I'm Jewish and I'm a Zionist. I would like to go to class over there."
No, but
And
he wanted
the
he
students,
wanted to go. I know what it is. I know what that thing is. He wanted to go
yeah, it
right
was
to the exam.
UCLA.
He could have went any other place. Well, last night they attacked the Jewish student attacked those people. Now, who's violent? Those students or those? Who
Oh
are the
yeah, okay,
violent
hold
people?
on. Let me go ahead and concede the
This is
debate
the
already.
problem with you
Yeah,
people.
Let me concede the debate already. Arabs are never violent. Leftist protesters never do anything wrong. There's no violence
Okay,
from your
do
side.
you have
There's
an
no
issue with Arabs?
extrajudicial, extra
Oh,
procedural.
do you have an issue with Arabs? Because you said the same thing last time. You called us
Sure.
cowards.
I
What's
have
the
a
problem here?
I have
What's the
yeah,
problem here?
sure. I have a beef with people
What?
who sympathize with
Okay.
jihadist terrorism. Yeah, I got
There
beef
is
with
no
that.
jihadists. Well, actually, the people who are dying are the Arabs. 40,000 people have been killed. You've been killing people in
Uh-huh.
Afghanistan for 20 years. You killed a
Yeah, but
million
see,
and
you're
a
not
half.
addressing.
Hold
You've
on,
not.
hold on, hold on. Let me tell you,
This is part of the problem right here.
you killed
I
a million
killed?
and a half.
Hang on, you're not even letting him get through his opening
Yeah.
statement.
No, this is
Do
perfect.
I
I
have
love
to?
it.
Well, you
Do
said
I have to
Arab, you said
fucking?
Arab, you
Hey,
said Arab war. Hold on.
hey,
Well, let's
hey!
use-
Everyone
let's
will
use
stop
killing
talking
who?
when I say to stop talking. Everyone.
Rabble,
I
We
love
had the same shit last
the
time. This fucking piece of
stop.
shit.
I love the energy, but I want to draw it all the way fucking back to the college protest. We're going to
Thank you,
start
but,
there, then we can get to
he
all of that. But let's
He threw Arab
start
in there. He threw
at
the
the
word Arab in
college
there.
protests, okay?
There was no Arabs there. He threw the word Arab in
There's
there
no
because
Arabs
he's a
at the
racist.
protest?
They was students. It doesn't matter who they are. They're all American students. Okay. You don't know if they were
You
American
don't know
citizens
that.
or
There could
not.
be people who are
Well,
transfers
do
who
you
are here
know?
on a visa.
It does also. I mean, do you know? I don't know, and you don't know, right?
I know that there's probably international
We
students
both
who are
don't know. We
participating in
both don't know.
protests.
Let's just call them students. Don't get to that Arab shit because I'm not gonna stand for that. Okay. You
I
understand?
don't care. So no.
Last time you said the same shit. Oh, the Arabs walk around with AK-47. Okay, relax. Okay. Okay, the Arabs have
No.
not done nothing. Since 1990, the most people have been dying are the Arabs at the hands of smart bombs made by the United States military
Yeah, okay,
industrial
this is
complex.
another
All right?
stupid fucking point. This
Okay.
is another stupid
Million
fucking
and a
point.
half Iraqis.
90,
Million and a half Iraqis
yeah,
are
a million and a
dead
half
here.
Iraqis. Do you know how the million and a half died? At the
Because
hands
you
of each
destroyed the
other.
country.
No, because Sunni and
No.
Shia were butchering each other in the fucking streets, you goddamn
You
idiot.
dismantle. You're the fucking idiot. You dismantle the whole
No,
country.
you're the fucking idiot.
Okay?
Okay, so hold on.
God
So hold
damn.
on. So if the United States, let's say the federal government disappears,
I'm gonna tell you,
and then
Arabs
okay, hold
have-
on. Okay, so
Arabs
let's say
have
an
big
Arab.
dicks like everybody else. We got big dicks like
Who cares?
everybody else. We
I
have
don't
two
care about your
balls like
dicks.
everybody else. So I want you to
Okay.
respect our dicks on balls. All right? You fucking.
I have no problems with
cracker,
your dicks
okay?
and balls. No problems with your dicks and balls.
Can't
That's
use
not
the
my
C
problem at all.
word. We're on
Maybe you have an
Twitch.
issue with that. I mean, excuse
Okay,
me.
do we want to get into the war on terror, or do we want to go to the protest?
No, we want to go to the
we gotta
Stop!
protest. Yeah.
Stop! Oh my god! This has been
Okay.
the worst panel I've hosted in a while. We couldn't even get past go. We couldn't even get past the start without this happening. Let's focus on. I'll also ask the questions. I'll ask the questions to start, and we'll get through it. 2 PnP and 2 Counterpoints. Do you think there has been any police overstep in the responses to the protests? And if so, what has that overstep been? Is there any thing you can point to and say, hey, I'm not okay with how the police handled that?
Yes,
yet.
absolutely. Go ahead, Connor.
Examples. Yeah. from
No,
one of
I,
you.
no, I said no, not yet. So you can tell me the examples.
Oh, sure. Okay. So I want to be clear here because, again, Wick, you were commenting on keeping clear which schools we're talking about. I think it's also important to remember the timeline of events, right? So, and if one of these might have been more or less reasonable based on which campus it was on and when exactly it took place. There were instances of tear gas being used that I thought were overreaches. that you could have used basic riot police to handle that situation. You did not need to go to chemicals. That said, I'm pretty sure I heard about one earlier today, and I don't have the details on that one. And if they were clashing with police, which I've seen plenty of videos of people clashing with police, generally speaking, they outnumber the police. So there's a reason that tear gas is in the toolkit, but I don't think it should have been reached for in the instance.
The first place.
Okay.
First of all, the students were peaceful, especially in Colombia.
Well, no. Here's a question to your side then, Omar,
Okay.
and this is for Kevin
Yeah.
as well. So Kevin and Omar, can you again point to any incidents in any of these protests where you think that the protesters got out of hand and did need to have the police come in?
Okay. Well, firstly, to kind of denying any police overreach, that doesn't surprise me, given his past as I believe you're a former policeman yourself. Yeah, there's a certain kind of self-protection that he's engaged in by the police. I don't know that there's much the police could do that former police officers and indeed current serving police officers would have a problem with, at least in the public sphere. It's pretty pathetic, actually. And again, you're going to further delegitimize the police in the eyes of people who already, you need to win the trust back of at some point. But regardless of that, are there people who have overstepped the mark in the protest? Yeah, absolutely. I think I've seen, albeit limited numbers, there have been examples of anti-Semitism and violence used, and that's not fucking cool. I'm not okay with that. And that doesn't involve fighting back against the police, because if you're aggressed upon, I think that's self-defense at that point. But yeah, there's been some fuckery. There's no doubt. Like, you couldn't have a thing spread across that kind of geographic area involving that number of people without some fuckery going on. Do you think there's ever been a civil rights movement in the history of the world that was ever entirely peaceful or entirely, with the founding fathers, angels, with the Vietnam protests entirely peaceful? No, of course not.
Omar, what about you?
Well, I think anti-Semitism was overplayed, and they turned hold on. In order to dilute the message of the student, and their objective is, they pushed the Jewish community as they were under attack, forgetting that a third or maybe more are Jewish students who are protesting. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and on Saturday night, more than 500 American Jews came out and blocked the Grand Plaza. It's called Grand Army Plaza, and 100 or 200 of them were arrested, chanting the word "Let Gaza live." So American Jews are involved with the movement that is to stop the genocide that is happening in Gaza as anybody else. The whole idea, the anti-Semitism is weaponized against these students to demonize them and make them look like monsters. Yeah, and you had these agitators who go there and try to provoke a response every single time they fail. And at the end, we saw what happened. The people who actually used violence were the supposedly victim Jews who were being victimized. There would be anti-Semitism. They were not allowed to go to their school. They attacked them in the middle of the night. The police failed to protect these people. The whole idea is, you have to understand, American campuses, any college campuses, are the breaking ground for change in any society. The Arab Spring took fire and changed almost the whole Arab world from college campuses and college students. But for us to gang up on them, the media, unable to mention last night as they went into what do you call that hall, unable to mention the word Gaza. Oh, they even said they renamed the hall Hind Hall. A Palestinian woman who was killed in Gaza. She's a 6-year-old girl who was killed by the ADF, and it's a fucking sad story if you look into it. The whole idea is the message. These students have a message. They didn't want nonviolence. They were in camping. They were eating potato chips and things of that nature. There was no anti-Semitism intended. That was just used as weaponized by the forces, the three evil forces in our society: the media, the economic elites, and what's that? What's the other one?
Look, it's your conspiracy. I don't know.
Is it banking?
Huh?
Is it banking? Media?
No, is
it
media,
Hollywood? Is the third one Hollywood?
Hold on, relax, boy, relax.
Is it the media elites?
It's corporate media, the economic
disproportionately
elites.
represented by a certain demographic?
Oh
Go take a
wow!
shit.
That's Connor's going full boomer conservatoid now. Everything I don't like is
I'm just asking.
anti-Semitism. Nice,
You know,
nice, nice.
there seems to be some correlation between the groups that you're referencing.
No, not every
Political
criticism of an
is
elite is anti-Semitism, is it? Joe Biden's the
it's
president. He's a Catholic.
their
Does that mean the
own.
fucking Vatican rule? No, come on.
Yes.
Yeah, the Supreme
Yeah,
Courts are
yeah.
mostly Catholic. We're not saying you're right there, Logan. The whole idea is the economic elites, the media elites, and the political elites. They got together and demonized these students and turn them. All of a sudden, they wake up as fucking anti-Semites. All of a sudden, they hate Jews. They're attacking Jews. These are students who are going every day with these students. They're friends. There are Jewish students inside these encampments. This is what drove me crazy. The whole idea was to dilute the message because anything that is
Okay.
criticism of Israel, it's no good.
We gotta get it
Go
to the
ahead.
open discussion now, buddy. So I'm
All right,
gonna
buddy. Take care.
I'm
I'll
gonna
listen
pass
to
it
it.
off,
Well,
right?
can
And
I
let
can I ask a
responses. Go
question
ahead.
to the folks on the other side here? Um, so I'm willing to concede all kinds of stuff to you guys. Really, I'm not the hardliner here. I just think it's fine to bring in the police to keep order. But I'm curious to the two of you, how much property damage do you think is reasonable at a protest? Again, I'm good faith. How much property damage is acceptable?
I mean,
Not-
I sort of don't give that much of a fuck as long as it's not like a structural damage to a building. If it's a bit of graffiti, it can be cleaned off.
Well,
don't
I'm
really
happy to give
care.
examples, but I'm talking like dollar value. Like, at what point is somebody allowed to say you've caused enough property damage that we need to?
Well,
This is
I mean, I
crazy.
don't know that I would put a dollar value on any of that. To be honest with you, I mean, if they've got many millions of dollars to be spending on these horrific things in Israel, I
Yeah.
don't see that they can't afford to clean a bit of fucking graffiti off.
Yeah.
Like
Just
for
let-
me,
just let
it's
it-
Yeah,
for
they
me,
have,
it's a
they have a
matter
lot
of
of money.
Cool.
Well,
for me,
they
it's
can just
for me,
resod the entire quad,
Fuck it up.
right? Like,
well, to be fair, a lot of these institutions are essentially fucking wealth funds with a library. I mean, they've got a lot of fucking money, actually.
The
Yes,
fuck their shit
a
up.
lot of
Yeah,
these
yeah.
organizations don't.
Yeah, the
No, I'm
law
not
doesn't
saying
apply
fuck-
to them. We can
I'm
do
not
whatever
saying
they
fuck
want to them.
anything up, but I'm saying the idea that the police are going to go in and do less damage is an interesting
To
notion,
property?
frankly.
Yes, they
Well, the
do.
police don't do any damage to property during any of
They
this.
might
no?
kick some doors in. Do you think they're going to graffiti and shit on the walls and spray paint
No.
things?
No,
You
but
ever
they
see them
probably
first-
will brutalize a lot of people and escalate the situation. Yeah.
Escalate
what
the
tends to
situation. So
happen.
the situation being human beings barring other people from using public facilities and basically
Or just
damaging
I mean,
property.
I don't know if people having a drum circle is necessary that you need riot police for.
It's all just drum
particularly.
circles. That's what I've been watching for the past couple of days. Yeah.
Well, no, I've seen
absolutely.
agitators going in there and trying to cause fucking
Right,
firing,
they're probably
firing
all far right.
fireworks
Yeah,
at people.
Whenever somebody
firing
says something anti-Semitic, they're probably far right. They're not even leftist.
No, I'm not even talking about with inside the camp. I'm saying that, say, at UCLA.
No, you guys are right. The lefties
You
don't
had
do anything
people
wrong.
outside. No,
but is
At
it
what
not
point
fair
have
to-
I ever said that they don't do anything wrong? Stop being.
They
a
didn't
bitch
do
about
anything
it, man.
wrong.
Jesus
No,
Christ.
the
Problem,
cops are going to do worse.
pathetic.
The cops are going to do
Logan,
worse than the
Cops have
protesters who are
already
damaging
done-
property. Yeah,
Cops
you're,
have
yeah.
already
you're
done
right.
fucking worse. They've
Kevin,
Oh,
already
because
they
brutalized
arrested
60-year-old
people.
professors.
Logan,
Oh,
Lo-
they gave somebody anxiety by arresting them. This is worse
Logan.
than
No,
property
they
damage.
physically
I say
brutalized
something?
fucking old professors and shit.
Oh,
Well,
That's what I'm talking about.
oh.
2020, hold on. 2025 is coming, and then we're gonna have the election. If it doesn't come out, we're gonna have a lot of douchebags like Connor come out to protest, and the police gonna beat them up. These people are happy when the state is using power to suppress the freedom of expression. It's going to work both ways. If you're silenced today on the kids in Colombia, tomorrow you're going to be silenced on the people in Hawaii or whatever, or in Washington D.C.
This is what the dissident right said 5 years ago. I didn't give a fuck
Okay,
then, and
so-
I don't give a fuck now. You guys are literally using alt-right playbook bullshit from fucking 5 years ago in order to say there's no problems with your fucking protests.
It's called freedom. It's a First Amendment. We have the right to express.
You
to
absolutely
demonstrate,
have
yes.
the right to express
Yes.
yourself in
What
ways that
damage was
basically
caused?
don't
What
damage
damage?
property and don't
There
commit
was no
crimes. Yeah,
damage
you're right.
property. They put the chairs against the door. You know who damaged? The police. They broke
Okay,
the
so
windows
hold
to
on. So
get
Kevin
in.
Logan, you're saying that I'm being hyperbolic by saying that you guys are saying that nothing is happening. However, he's literally saying right now that there's no damage, There's no problems.
Well, I can't.
You said
message?
you said it was
Another person say.
agitators. That it wasn't,
Of
you know, it
course.
wasn't protesters. It was agitators.
There have been
who
agitators
am I supposed
undoubtedly
to?
in there. Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so who am I supposed? So who am I supposed to blame?
Why?
The kids got beat up last night. You see, they attacked him.
Okay,
in
well,
Minnesota
hang
last
on, hang
night.
on, hang on, Kevin.
Yeah.
Again, offering an olive branch to keep the conversation moving, so it's not just screaming.
Please do.
Would it not be fair to say that if it's just drum circles, right, that having police there also protects the drum circles from agitators, right?
And if the police,
that's the entire point that I'm making, is that you bring the police in early so that there isn't already a clash going on.
The police will protect Nazis that go fucking marching. They're not going to protect pro-civil rights campaigners. That doesn't really fucking happen. They brutalize them. They'll go in and arrest them. Fuck it. If it's the FBI, they might fucking kill them.
When they barricaded themselves in a building, yes, they're coming to arrest them. When they're literally having a fist fight on the UCLA quad, they're going to...
No. That's just happened in barricaded buildings. They've had like 60-year-old professors who would just standing
interfering
in the way.
with an arrest.
Everyone they've arrested has been a 60-year-old professor. Or did you find the most weak, feeble, bitch-made fucking body that you could on video in order to complain about?
The Texas
the police are the ones that went and brutalized those motherfuckers.
Women.
They seem to find the weakest body they could go in.
Oh,
yeah.
so if I come back and I show you that fucking video of like some random fucking protester falling down to the ground where you don't see the fucking first 10 seconds of the interaction, where it's like an Israeli woman who allegedly got her fucking head stomped in by protesters, are you guys going to come up with 10,000 excuses for why that was okay?
Oh, fucking people.
No, when
the whole idea is
what's this?
Kevin.
So just real quick, just to interject again, we don't know if this has happened. This is a rumor that happened. So the whole this ties into the UCLA thing. So I think it's good for my audience to kind of know the lore, if you will, as we understand it. Keep in mind, it's a fluid situation. Take everything I'm going to say with a grain of salt because I'm not sure on it. I want to make that clear. Let me finish. Oh, God damn it. Okay. So again, just let me put this out there that. Please, this is unverified. I don't know. But this is what the narrative is. That there was a Jewish woman who was beaten unconscious at the UCLA protest. She went to the emergency room. Her community got together, got about 100, 200 people, and they went to retaliate at the UCLA protesters. And that was what was the instigating incident of the brawl. Now, that said, even if that's all true, which I don't know if it is, that could have just simply been a rumor. We don't know. But even if that's true, that's vigilante justice, and that's not okay. And to Principal's point, would not have police presence there been pretty helpful in that case? Go ahead, Kevin.
I don't see. Well, I mean, to protect an individual, if that is the case, is fine. Yes, but
no, I'm talking about along the protest, keep the brawl from happening last night.
Where the counter protesters showed up with fireworks and launched it into the protester thing and started ripping down barricades and beating shit out of people. Do you think cops would have been a better development or a worse development?
I mean, they probably would have been better in that situation. Were the police even there at the time or not?
They were there. They just watched.
I think they didn't show up because they were basically like, yeah, fuck
I watched it happen in real time last night. Wick can tell you.
Fuck it, you deserve it.
Because I was freaking out.
There you go. To
protect
protect and serve. Fuck it, you deserve it. So I'm just going to.
Well, you said that you didn't want them.
Brilliant.
You said you didn't
do
want
I make the decisions? Am I being paid by the people of California?
You're pretty representative of the leftist attitude on cops. We don't want you. You make the situation worse. Okay, we make the situation worse. Go fuck yourself. That's your problem now.
I'm not the one being paid by the taxpayers of California to serve and protect the police in California.
I'm pretty sure the community. I'm pretty sure the college probably said, "Hey,
I'm sorry,
you guys are going to make it worse, so don't go."
Police are only going to protect you if you're nice.
If you tell them not to go and they don't show up, why the fuck are you complaining?
No.
Telling that when the police are showing up in Columbia, when the police are showing up,
dunk on stuff, right? I'm trying to say, from the perspective of the Californian police in UCLA or whatever fucking district it is, right? If they're there to protect and serve, why is it that the people anywhere, me, the people of California, or anything else, why do they have to be nice to the police for the police to do their fucking jobs?
You just
Well,
said
not
that
only
they
that.
make it worse.
They
Hold
don't.
on, hold
They
on.
don't.
told them you make
No,
it
no,
worse.
that's
Yo,
ridiculous.
Hey, let's
okay,
pass it
relax,
to
relax.
to PnB. I hear you, Omar. We'll get
Let
you
me
in
say
a sec.
something.
Let's pass it
Yeah.
to Principles, and then we'll go to Omar. Principles, go ahead.
There is all kinds of video of police officers being perfectly professional with people screaming in their faces. Where you
Yeah.
see the instances where people are getting actually pushed around by police, you can always find a video from the exact same event from a different angle that shows somebody throwing something at the police or shoving a police officer.
So can I just? It's very easy to turn the thing back around you and say, well, so the police never do anything wrong then?
No,
Is
of
that your
course not.
argument?
The point is that we have a court system for that. If you're wronged by the police, go to the courts.
And the
And
courts
turn
look,
it
if you have no faith in any pillars of
Yeah.
society, I don't
Don't
know what to
turn
tell you, bud.
yeah, listen, don't turn the debate to anti-police. We have no issue with the police. The police could be
Oh, I
in that
fucking do.
area to
I'm just
no,
gonna say
hold
it
on.
openly, I do.
No, but the police should be present in that area to defend, to protect both the
Yes.
agitators and the people in the camping. The only issue we have with the police is when they went in with pepper spray and started throwing people upside down and dragging them. That's the issue we have. They should not have entered that place. We don't have no issue with the police. I don't have no issue with the police. I pay a lot of taxes where I live just for the protection of the police. The problem is that they wanna steal again. They wanna steal the message. The message is to divest from investment in apartheid Israel, where they have murdered more than 40,000 men, women, and
that's
children.
fine, but
Thank you.
the speech
And
from the
I
other
salute these kids. I salute every single one of them. And if I could, I would
You can
watch
salute
every
them, but
single
let's
of them.
let Principles respond to you before you do
Yeah,
all the
Principal.
saluting
Yeah,
of
Principal.
40,000.
Police
That
are
might take a
great.
while.
Uh,
Go ahead.
The thing is, there is speech that's being silenced from other people. That there are other people who are saying, "That's fine. Can you please go home for one night?" Right? In
why?
most of these instances, the issue that's causing these confrontations is that they're being told to disperse. They're not being told they can't come back. They're not even being told they can't come back tomorrow. They're just being told you have to go away for right now.
The police
That's
have
it.
been told
Just go away.
the
And
police
if
have
they
been
weren't,
the
go
police
ahead.
have been asked to stay there until the 17th of this month. So it's a
Go
lot.
ahead,
It's
finish
right
your
now.
point, Principles, and then you guys can respond. I
Go ahead,
promise.
Principal, man.
Well, no. So, like I already gave you that, I think that the first instance that I saw of tear gas was unjustified. To the best of my knowledge, I only saw one that specifically included pepper spray, and I'm not sure how I feel about that one because we had already started to see things escalating. And the whole point I've been making is that you bring it in when you can use the least force possible and just get everybody back to baseline.
The reason they went into that hole is because they commemorate the 50th year of 1968. When they went, Columbia students went into that same hole to protest. 700 students went into that same hole to protest the Vietnam War. That time they were not pretty.
Yes,
They were
and
beat
they got
up.
arrested.
And they got beat up. They were considered troublemakers. The same thing you guys are saying about them, and they were right.
Well,
And
I
these
mean, look,
students have-
during the
these
60s
students,
protests, they also had like fucking bombs going off on
yeah,
campus
but
and
these
things like that.
students,
They
the
were like
students,
literally bombs, so it's a different.
The other
Mike,
thing
check
is
thing.
that was 700 arrests in 1968. When we're talking about last night, that was 100, and that's between
the
Columbia
issue
and
here,
that's between
there was,
Columbia and City University. I'll
it's
be
okay.
ultra generous and say only one person got arrested at City University. You think there were only 99 people at that protest? Almost everybody could just go home.
200 got arrested, Jewish Americans just outside in Brooklyn on the street. We're not saying that. I mean, the whole idea is the message there. These students were not bothering anybody. They were encamped in the
Yes, they
park.
were.
That's
There were
obviously
people
not
saying that
true.
they were being
That's
bothered.
Where
obviously
were they
not true.
encamped? In the hallways? Where they in the hallways? They were outside in the street. On the I'm from New York City. You can see them right there. You can walk over there. You
Yeah,
can,
but
Yeah,
there are-
protesters
there are
did nothing.
students-
They did nothing wrong. As a matter of fact,
God
they
bless
weren't
them.
disruptive.
I
They were
think,
inside their houses doing a
just-
Discord call protest. Nobody should have gotten
just-
arrested.
just
I
right.
agree with you.
Connor's attitude
You know what,
is the perfect example
My
of
attitude
the
is you
fact that
keep
there is
saying
not-
retarded shit, and I'm supposed to contend with it.
Yeah, you're very big for saying slurs against disabled people. That's super cool.
Thanks.
You're the perfect example of the kind of dictum on the left. I think that there is no way in which you can protest structures of power that have the kind of political and economic weight of force behind them that will ever be tolerated. It was the same with the Vietnam War. There was no Vietnam War protest that would ever have been acceptable to the Nixon administration. They were going to clamp down on them regardless, because they were just never going to accept their demands. It was never going to happen, and they were never going to even fucking talk to them about it. They were going to go in and brutalise. And the same is true, I think, of this protest movement as well.
So
Unless
what
you sit nice and quiet in the corner, not making any disruption and whispering nicely, then you might be allowed to protest in that way. But other than that, they're gonna fucking crack down.
No. Hold on. Let me agree with.
Everything is a
Let me say something. I agree with Kevin Logan. I think he's right. I think that disruptive protests are the kind of things that we make illegal, and therefore, if you're inconvenient to the powers that be, then you're going to get fucked. You're going to get arrested. You're going to get expelled. You're going to get all that kind of stuff. And as I said in my intro, hold on, shut up. During my intro, shut up. Shut up. So, as I was saying in my intro, if you're going to take extra legal and extra procedural courses of action, you have to be willing to suffer you have to be willing to suffer legal and procedural consequences. It is the way that it is. If you want a functioning society, then that's what it is.
And that's exactly it.
The same students protested against the same students protested.
You're all trying to talk at once.
One word.
No one can hear either one of you, by the way, when you all talk
word,
over each other. Just letting you know.
The same students protested against South Africa in the 80s, and they were ridiculed. They were the same thing. They were attacked. They were considered as agitated. They were considered as communists, socialists, whatever you want to call them. Even Reagan did not want to condemn the South African apartheid state. And the same thing, and they changed the world through the diverse program. That's what they're trying to do. You people say, "Oh, the Palestinians only know how to do is terrorism." No, they don't. They want to just use sanctions, diverse sanctions, to bring Israel to the table to make a peace settlement.
Yeah, October 7th. Those were some beautiful sanctions. Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you see, this is the idiots. The Americans are the most
quick question.
Stupid shit, and then you call other people idiots. I don't get it.
3 days before October 7, Israeli killed about 53 Palestinians with an air attack. 250 Palestinians were killed in the West Bank before October 7, the same year. So not everything is October 7. There's a history before October 7. There's a history, you fucking idiot. You know what I'm saying? You're a fucking idiot.
We're gonna bring
it
back.
You're always gonna be an idiot.
Yeah.
And people
So
like you are always gonna be idiots. You're the dumbest motherfuckers when it comes to foreign policy.
So what I like to do.
Zionist wannabe.
What
That's
I
all it
like
is.
to
Zionist
do.
wannabe.
What I like to do.
I want to be a Zionist. I want to be a Zionist.
What I like to
Good.
do. Yep. So when 250 of my countrymen are killed, during struggles over territory, what I like to do is I like to walk into the most powerful military neighbor I have and slaughter 1,000 civilians and then expect no consequences. I think that's a genius geopolitical, geostrategical fucking move. I think it was fucking brilliant.
Okay, before we get any further, we're going to mute both of you so you stop going down this rabbit hole. Okay, we good? We settled? Then we're going to unmute you just so we can get some back on track. I get it, but this is more than just another Israel-Palestine debate. We're going to be talking about the campus protest specifically.
But that's the cause.
I understand, but we got to go into the specifics of what's been happening on the campuses. So I just wanted to have a question. I got one question for each side, but I'll start with the Kevin's side first. This is to Omar and Kevin. So you mentioned like disruptive protests are necessary in order to make sure that your voice is heard, to be unacceptable to those in power, and that's on purpose, etc. How much collateral damage are we okay with? So how many students who aren't involved in the administration aren't involved in these things? One of the major criticisms of these protests is that the students who pay tuition to go to these schools have been deprived of the ability to study in peace, to take their finals in peace, to access the library on their campus. We have videos of Jewish people being barred from entering the library on campus, etc. Like, how much collateral damage is okay?
Can we be a bit more honest about that? When you say they're Jewish people, are they being barred because they're Jewish or because they're agitators or what? What's going on there?
So
they're Zionists. They support the state of Israel.
Are
they
literally
deserve
people? Are they literally people on the outside wearing fucking Nazi armbands saying "Juden," or is it actually because these people are antagonistic to the group that are there.
Well,
Yeah, how
usually
do
it's
they know-
because
how
they're
do-
Zionists.
I think that's a
not have
fair-
right
I
to be
think that's a fair
antagonistic
way
to a
of-
group that's barring them from their educational facilities.
Okay, well, okay, but don't expect them
said
to treat
Kevin
you
and
fucking
Omar, shut
nicely
the
then,
fuck
I
up.
guess.
So hold on. So if somebody is obeying the law and if somebody is disobeying the law and the cops come in and mediate
and
the
I know,
situation,
the
are they
law
supposed
is
to arrest
perfect.
both parties?
I know. You as an ex-police officer, the law is perfect in every conceivable fucking way.
That's
Yeah,
not what I
absolutely.
said at all. As a matter of fact, what's happening is you guys
you
keep
should always
saying that
go
what's
with the
happening
law.
is
It's
not
what he's
happening.
saying.
And then you
No,
say that
it's
it's a
not-
good thing that it's happening.
It's not as if the only
they
real human
still-
advances we get is when people step outside of the law or anything like that. No, if you just follow the law, you will make revolutionary change. Definitely.
I don't want you to
Yeah,
make
so-
revolutionary
The
change.
problem
I think the change you're aiming for is
hold on.
fucking
Was,
dumb.
wasn't the question for Kevin and Omar? Can you shut
Yeah,
the fuck up?
peace in the Middle East is super dumb. Yeah, no, I quite agree.
Yeah, the
I
whole
agree.
idea is that once a great man once said right is the language of the unheard. Right, the guy said it, and he was a very famous man called Martin Luther King.
Yeah,
Protesting-
suicide bombing, the language of the
hold on,
unheard.
hold on. Listen, motherfucker, you bomb a whole block, but you fucking worried about some crazy motherfucker who blew up a mosque. They were killing more Arabs and Muslims than they were killing What's wrong
Yeah,
with you?
guess what?
Do you have-
So hold on.
do you
So
have
watch
an
this
issue?
again.
Do you have an issue? You want me to get up?
95%
me to
of
get
the
up?
casualties in the war on terror are Muslims killing Muslims, not Americans
Well,
killing Muslims.
So why are you complaining?
So
I'm not
it's
complaining.
your fucking problem. You just complained
I'm
about
not
it 20
complaining.
seconds ago.
What does it have to do? I'm talking about Martin Luther King.
How about
and
we
you jumped to the
answer my
Middle East.
question?
Go
You
ahead.
have a problem.
I
You have
made
a
a
problem with
joke.
fucking Arabs, you fucking pussy. You're a fucking
Yeah.
pussy. Okay.
Yeah, I got a problem.
Careful with
What's the problem? What's the?
I just
What? Excuse my language.
I
no,
got-
you're
I
fine
got
with
a
the language.
problem.
I just don't want to go for that's pussy is fine to say,
hold on.
but just
So I got a problem. Let me
I
articulate
see
my
it going
problem.
up, and I want to
My-
make sure
my
we don't
problem-
have that.
I want to respond.
my
No, I want
problem-
to respond first.
You asked me a question.
No, I don't ask you a question. Fuck it. You trying to hijack the
Okay,
conversation.
you
You're
go
trying to turn it into terrorism and all this bullshit. You're always trying to hijack the message and they were trying to prevent Jewish kids, anti-Semitism. they
Okay,
beat up a Jewish
stop.
woman. It has
Answer my
nothing- it
question,
has nothing to do
Omar.
with-
We don't need the
Protest. Okay. Protest.
Can I try to ask?
The idea of protesting is supposed to make people uncomfortable. This is what it is. You
Okay,
can't
so
go
my
in your
question
house and
is
protest.
specifically how many of these, for lack of a better word,
How long-
uninvolved civilian college people who aren't down with the protest or just ambivalent, neutral to the protest, how many of those is
Facility
it
is there.
okay to inconvenience in a protest before you think that the protest has gone too far? 10,
depends.
100, 1,000? What do we think?
It depends on, I suppose, and each individual makes their own analysis of this. It depends how
Yeah, I'm asking
seriously you
yours.
think the problem is, right? So, for instance, Colombia or whoever, if they're invested in arms manufacturers, people would see that as pretty fucking serious. And you would argue that, say, the manufacturing of those bombs has certainly disrupted the learning of the people of Palestine far more than the people of Colombia.
Certainly,
for
but how
instance.
many people
So,
who go to
You
Colombia
could-
who
you
aren't
could- you could
involved in
make
those
the argument
processes?
that they're very temporary potential infringement. And again, in the era of Zoom and all the rest of it, I really don't think it's that much of a fucking problem, actually.
Whoa,
And you
whoa,
can
whoa,
do
hold on.
online learning lessons for a brief period of time. It's not ideal for a whole fucking semester or for a whole 3-year course or whatever.
So are you in
But if-
favor, hold on.
there are ways in which you can get around that in a way that it wouldn't have been, say, back in the 60s or whatever. When,
Certainly.
by the way, the same fucking things were happening during the Vietnam War and by people like Martin Luther
So,
King, who's now lauded
do you
for
think
his
that the police
peaceful,
responded,
where he was fucking hated during his lifetime because he disrupted things, because he didn't always advocate entirely peaceful fucking or entirely legal means. did he?
So, just
it's
to
the
be
same thing
clear,
that
just
people
be
have
clear.
with
But
these
Omar,
projects.
before you
What would be the
respond,
guy that got
I have a
differently about
clarifying
Putin
question
than
for
now.
Kevin. I have a clarifying question for Kevin. So just to be clear, then, that you don't think that the cops should have been called on the Colombian protesters. Is that correct?
I think if you occupy buildings, that becomes a different thing.
Okay,
And,
so you are kind of okay
I
with
would
that?
I would still advocate a hopefully a peaceful solution. And there are ways
as far as I know, no one was
gone
hurt.
around this. I think Harvard, for instance, came to the solution where there isn't an immediate thing. They're going to have a vote on this divestment at some point in the future, and that seems to have dispersed some of the problem there. I think there are ways in which you can talk through these problems that doesn't need the police to necessarily get involved. But if that ultimately comes down to it and there are buildings occupied, then the police go in. But if people are fucking camping on a bit of grass, It doesn't seem like that's actually a threat to anybody, really.
I
and
agree, and that's why I think when they called the police on Texas, that was uncalled for. But when they called the police on the Colombian protesters who were occupying a building, maybe we have a different.
I think they could have negotiated that.
True, but I think, to be honest with you, from what I've seen of the leadership of the Columbia University, and again, I don't know these people personally, of course, but it seems like they're being pretty fucking intransigent in terms of talking to their student body about these issues.
He's an idiot. You have to be
Again,
Arab.
a lot of this stuff can be talked out in a way, even if you don't necessarily concede to the event. You can use it as a pressure release valve of talking to people and getting some fucking opinions on stuff and maybe dispersing some of the crowd. Now, some of the hardcore might remain, and there's definitely some larpy fucking douchebags amongst them that will fucking stick through to the end. But you can deal with a much smaller number in a much more reasonable way than if you have riot police wading into a group of 1,000.
So, do you think that the police should have been called during the January 6th protests when the protesters were occupying the Capitol building?
They were, to be fair, they were calling verbally and openly to murder the vice president. So I would argue there's a significant step up in threat.
Can I say something, Wick? Wick,
Yep,
I think
now's your chance to shine. Then we're going to go to principles, and then we'll
I think that's shameful that you compare January 6th to the students in Colombia. The January 6th, they were trying to overthrow the government of the United States. Hold on, you had 535 senators and congressmen and the vice president of the United States. You had the whole government of the United States inside this building they were attacking, and you're saying they should have called the army and the Marines. And so you think, let's say 5,000 Arabs and blacks were running. You know, we've been all dead that day. You understand? They will throw the atomic bomb on us. Who was that day? This is two different.
Everybody remember the summer of 2020 where we bombed all the black protests?
It's two different things. You understand?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's exactly what you said the fuck it was.
I just go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself.
What happened? Now you hate black people? Now you have an issue?
I love all sorts of people. You're just playing the race card, and I don't give a fuck because you're a fucking idiot.
You keep on talking about race. What's wrong with you, man? You're racist or what? You're a closet racist? What's wrong?
Sure, if that makes you feel fucking better, you fucking idiot.
You keep on saying Arabs, blacks. We're not talking about BLM. Why are you gonna put the inject? Hold on, he's doing the.
Because you just said that. Okay, let me walk you through it. You be quiet. I'll walk you through the logic. You be quiet. I'll walk you through the logic. I'll walk you through it.
Both of you be quiet. Let Counterpoints walk you through, because I'm curious his logic too. I want to know what Counterpoints is getting
I'll write it down. I'll wait for him to be done. I'll be the polite adult. I'll write it down.
Okay, you're the adult. You're the racist. You cannot compare what's going on in Colombia. These are what happened on January 6th. On January 6th, they were. It was a different.
Both groups occupied a building. Both groups had portions of the crowd who were calling for the death of others.
Hold on. Was the whole government of the United States stuck in Columbia College?
No, but I think the government should protect its normal citizens, not just its politicians.
You know what have happened if they had got to those senators and those congressmen? Imagine what was going to happen.
I'm absolutely clear, and I think that what happened to the January 6th protesters should have happened to the January 6th protesters.
They were trying to prevent the
sure, I agree.
The peace. They were trying to prevent the
peaceful.
Change of power. That is the craziest shit I ever heard. You're gonna give it to some idiots in Columbia College who are eating potato chips
the organizer of the protest said that he did not deserve, the Zionists did not deserve to live, and that we should.
When you say the organizer of, is this
and what happened? What happened? They suspended him and kicked him out, right?
Got expelled.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
good.
But there were other people, and I can link you the clips at Columbia of people calling for the death.
You know what?
You had people violently break into the Capitol building with the verbal intent to murder the sitting Vice President of the United States. Having people chant from the river to the sea, which is at least ambiguous, some people might be anti-Semitic with it, I think a lot of people are not, is a significantly different and lower scale situation.
Sure.
Okay? The idea that these two things are comparable is fucking nonsense.
They are comparable. There's different scales, but they are comparable.
They're not. United States egging them on. And one of them,
Rick, you're wrong on this one,
sitting United States president, condemning them.
Okay, can I walk you guys through the joke I made? Can I walk you through the joke I made? I was patient for a few minutes. I would like to explain it. So what you said is you said if 5,000 blacks or Arabs charged the Capitol, they would have been nuked, implying that the United States federal government is so racist that they would use military force against ethnic minorities if they had done the same thing that whites had done. Okay, that's what you said.
Right away.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So me being a smartass and also thinking about recent current events, I
Okay.
remember that during the summer of 2020, we had
Yeah.
dozens and maybe hundreds of protests that were
Okay.
largely in the name of Black liberation and were
Okay.
significantly populated by Black people. And
What were
to
they
my
doing?
knowledge,
What were they doing?
let me finish the
What were they
sentence.
doing?
To
Go
my
ahead.
knowledge,
Yeah.
well, they were protesting, but some of them were riots.
They
Some
were
of them were
stealing
absolutely
fucking.
riots.
They were stealing sneakers and jeans. Fuck it. Everybody has insurance on that. You
Oh
fucking
yeah,
idiot.
nothing happened. Hold on, I'd like to finish my joke
It's
though.
a difference,
So
man.
I don't believe you.
I was
No,
in
hold on, hold on.
business.
I would like you to shut up so I can finish my joke. I would like you to
because
shut up.
you're
So I
not a
waited patiently.
comedian.
I waited patiently for 3 minutes. I would like you to wait patiently for 3 minutes. Can you do me that favor? Okay, thank you.
You're just trying to
So,
erase your racism.
I don't give a fuck if you think I'm racist.
Don't let him
Moving on.
distract you.
What is it?
Don't let him distract
Okay.
you. Just go with your
So-
point so we can get through
So
this.
the point is, there were definitely episodes of violence in American streets that were largely Black populated or motivated by Black injustice, and there were no airstrikes and there was no military response. As a matter of fact, I would go ahead and challenge you both to come up with a law enforcement related homicide during either one of those events. So you can say
You
they
see
were
the whole-
brutalized, they were arrested, they were taken into jail, they were taken into custody,
Yeah,
the riots were
fucking-
broken up,
the-
et cetera, et cetera. I doubt you can
the-
come up with a homicide during
no,
those
hold on.
committed by
You-
government forces.
You're still comparing fucking dumb shit to dumb shit. There was
No,
black
I'm not.
there was-
See,
hold
one
on,
of them
hold
was
on.
civil
Hold on,
unrest,
hold
one of them
on.
is civil unrest.
Let me
Those are
answer,
the
let me
same
answer.
category.
The-
Those are the same
no,
category. They're
they
not
were-
dissimilar at all.
Give
They
give
were
him a
breaking-
chance.
they-
Give Omar a
breaking-
chance to
hold on.
respond. Go ahead,
These
Omar.
kids were.
I'll wait.
They were breaking into what's a Best Buy and Nikes. They were stealing sneakers. They were
You
not
don't
trying
know
to
how
attack.
much I love Best Buy.
Well, shut the fuck up. They were not trying to attack the cradle of power.
My
The
Best Buy
capital-
is my
The
cradle of
capital-
power.
Hold on. Well, you're a fucking idiot because you're probably a hick or something or a redneck. So the whole idea is the capital of the United States was under the capital, man. Do you know what it is? You know how dangerous that shit was? If people hit it in the street, if God forbid the American government collapsed, every fucking people will have their own militias run around rampant throughout the United States. It will unleash a power of fucking violence that will last 1,000 years, you dumb idiot, you redneck hickey. Is it hickey or hilly? I don't know how to say.
It's not a hickey,
Hillbilly.
but that's hilarious. I want to move
got
on
close.
a little bit. I want to move on. This was a good side quest.
I do just want to. You did challenge me to come up with one police killing. I would point to the Trump boasting about essentially sending police to go and execute an Antifa suspect.
Oh, you mean the Antifa suspect who bragged about murdering someone? Yeah, okay, I'll take it.
Okay.
Yeah,
There
sure.
we go.
Okay. Yeah, no,
That
it's
guy
okay
got
for the
killed.
police.
You're right.
The police can act like Judge Dredd. Yeah, they've decided he's guilty, so they're going to go and kill him. Yeah, that's
Okay,
fine.
Trump was talking shit, and allegedly he had a gun in the fucking car, and he already murdered somebody. So super duper.
So-
Yep. You
Allegedly
came up
he
with
had
an
a gun in the
example. It was
car,
terrible,
and he'd
but
already
you
killed
did come up with
someone.
an example. Yeah, he already killed
You know,
someone. Yep.
guys. Let's
Yeah,
take a
but the
deep breath.
police don't get to decide that, you fucking knob. What are you
Yeah, you know what they
talking
do?
about? The
As a matter of
police are
fact,
not
I would like to
Judge
pause.
Dredd.
I would like 3 minutes. Yeah, sure. Sure.
He's
You
a- he's a-
finish
he's
your
a-
story.
Hold
on.
Let
You
the
finish
other
your
guy
story. And
go.
I'll,
We're on
I would
another
like 2
side
minutes.
quest, gang. Gang, we're on another side quest. If you're enjoying these side quests, make sure to subscribe to the
Give
channel,
P
like
a
it.
chance
and all
to
that.
talk.
But
Can I
anyway,
go on a side quest?
anyway, we're gonna give it to
Fucking-
Kevin because Kevin's trying to get through, and we're gonna let Kevin finish his
No,
response.
I'm done. I've said my fucking.
Oh, you've
piece.
said
Don't
your
wish
piece?
anymore.
Then we're
Can I say
gonna
my
pass
piece?
it to Counterpoints to respond. Go
Okay.
ahead.
Yeah, sure. So this is something where I think that people are either ignorant or they're intentionally stupid. So I'm going to go ahead and break this down. I would like 2 or 3
Yeah,
minutes. for this.
describing yourself right there.
Anyways, so
Okay.
the point
You
being
fought it.
that when somebody commits, so in
You
order to
coward.
use deadly force inside the United States, you have to be able to articulate that somebody is either of imminent threat of death or great bodily harm to themselves or others. By murdering another person on TV, that person has
Which they
already
have
met
not
that threshold.
proved. It's not been proven by the police at that
Except
time. You
for
can't
he
ex
was
post
on,
facto fucking justify it.
except for there's such things called warrants, which are based off of evidence, and the evidence basically had this guy
Based off
confessing
of
to doing the
evidence,
murder,
police don't
and the
get-
murder was
the police
videotaped.
are
You
not
fucking idiot!
judges.
I would like to be able to finish my concept. So anyways, so you're investigating. Okay, fine. As a matter of fact, because you're being a stingy asshole with zero charitability, I'll walk you through more stuff. We'll expand this side
Oh,
adventure.
sorry, the American
we
police
don't want to hear you
are
talk.
just
Hold on,
about charitability.
So you have somebody who commits a murder on video. Then they admit to the murder on video later. They claim self-defense, but the entire
police get
video
to
shows them.
execute them.
I'm not done yet. I'm not done yet. They walked up
No,
behind
no,
another human
continue with
being.
your
I'm not done yet.
justification,
I'm
yeah.
not done yet. I'm not done yet. I would like you to shut up. They walk up behind a
Don't give a
human being
fuck
and they
what you want.
execute
You
them. They
talking
shoot him in the back of the
shit,
head.
mate.
Okay, I want you to shut the fuck up. So he walks up and shoots somebody in the head. He admits to it on TV. So they create a warrant saying that this guy is a murder suspect and we're going to go arrest him.
Suspect.
So we already know he has a gun. We already know
No,
that he
the
has a
word
gun.
suspect.
We already know that he murdered someone. And we already know that he confessed to it. And then the statement
The
from law
president of the
enforcement,
United
true or
States then
not,
goes on to boast
statement
about
from
that,
law enforcement, true or not, is that when they went to go arrest him, he had a firearm in the car. He presented that firearm and he was dead. Okay, that might seem like
What is
the
that? I don't know what
cops
that is.
Never
fabricated
did
evidence in
anything
order to kill this
wrong.
guy, but considering he already murdered someone in cold blood, it's not exactly a
Which they didn't
stretch for
know.
me.
Okay.
So I don't give a
Yeah,
fuck
they
about your example.
police do get to just execute private citizens. Yeah, no, I quite agree.
Yeah, they get to
The police
execute
come round to your
murder
house and put a bullet
suspects.
through your
They
fucking
they
head,
get to
and
execute
rules
murder
apply.
suspects
Yeah,
who have
Okay.
a weapon and who are aiming it at law enforcement. Yes, they
Yeah,
do get to do
suspect.
that
Yeah.
per the law.
I think,
Cool. Side quest over. Let's get back to the
Kevin,
topic
he's
at
gonna-
hand. Great.
Kevin, he's
So
gonna
as
give
I
people
understand it,
more,
just so
active
everyone knows,
shooter this
stop it,
guy.
Omar. Shut up. Okay.
All right. All right, go ahead.
In these current round of protests, as I understand it, so far, aside from the UCLA event, which I believe multiple people were injured, I don't think anyone has died. At Columbia, during the raid by the police, no one was seriously injured. We have no record of that I have seen, and we have no record of anyone being killed or shot or anything like this. In my opinion, regardless of whether we think the cops should have been called or not, how
They
do
should
we
have been
think that
there.
the cops handled it last night? I'm just curious. My
Where,
opinion,
where?
remarkable
where?
restraint, but that's me. But I'm curious what you guys think. Go ahead.
They're supposed to show restraint. These are the law
Yeah,
enforcement.
that's good.
I mean,
That's good that they
we
did
don't
what they
agree
were
with them.
supposed
They
to
did a
do.
great job.
No, hold on. The whole issue here, you're trying to hijack the. We're not saying that police officers are bad. Stop. Law enforcement is a
Kevin's like,
necessary
"Oh."
element. No. Law enforcement is
think
a
you and Kevin agree.
necessary. It's a necessary element to protect the
I would agree
my
that it's
property.
necessary,
My
yeah.
property. If something happens to my house, who want to call Ghostbusters? Stop with this bullshit, okay? We don't hate cops. The whole idea is we want to give
Can I
Americans
just
the
say,
right.
my house
The
is
right.
broken into. The police
Yeah,
came in and did fuck all.
yeah, we want to give the American the right
Brilliant.
to
Thanks.
do what no other nations do, is to feed them, to give the middle finger to their own government. Listen, I come from a background where it's all tyrant. We don't have no self-expression. People used to disappear in the middle of the night. People just had accidents, unnecessary accidents. If you talk too much in college, they don't see you no more. So I could understand the beauty, the beautifulness in having this right that an American who was born here doesn't know its worth. So what I'm trying to say is those students could have negotiated with their own facility. It was a matter of time. They're gonna get tired. They're in there, no food. They were demanding food. They didn't even have food to eat. The whole idea is we want the police to be there outside, not inside, to protect both the people who are encampment and the people who are trying to attack them anyway. The police has to be there to protect because they have the same right to self
Do you think that
protection
the
under the law.
Can I jump in here?
Huh?
you may go ahead, principals, but I do have
There
a
we
question,
go.
and then at the top of the
I know
hour we're
you
going to read
jumped on that
super
shit.
chats, so get them in. Go ahead.
Oh no,
Yeah.
because I like extending olive branches. I like what you're saying, Omar.
Uh-huh.
But basically, I heard you say in there that they were asking for food. They have been in there for like 6 hours. Cut me some slack here on not taking that seriously.
They
Okay.
need humanitarian aid.
That shows you that
It-
they were not dangerous.
like-
They're idiots.
Well, yeah. Okay, there you go. They were idiots.
Oh, we
Thank
agree
you.
on
That was what I wanted to jump on.
I mean,
No,
they were
just
kids, man. They're young
clarify.
kids.
Okay,
They're
college
dreamers.
kids
They're
being
dreamers.
dumb.
The
News at
woman
11.
who said that
Got
is
it.
like
Okay.
27. She's a PhD candidate.
They are dreamers, man. They are dreamers. Yeah, these are the people who are our future leaders, man. They are
Oh
giving
God, I
voice
hope
to the
not. Okay,
voiceless.
let's go
They're
to the
talking-
super
Omar,
chats.
you're a
They're
PhD
talking.
candidate.
They're
You're
talking
calling.
for They're talking for 7.3 million Palestinians. And
Nope. I'm going to
There
read
is
my
some
super
larpy
chats.
dipshits involved.
Nope,
There's no
we're going to
doubt.
read the super chats right now. That's what we're going to do. We're going to read the super chats. They're going to make a little money, and then we'll get back to the discussion. I promise you. Okay, we'll get there. But first, I'm going to make a little money. So get your super chats in, gang. I see them on Twitch. I see them on Kick, and I see them on YouTube. So here is one from Admiral Gibbs. Omar and Kevin Logan are arguing that the KKK should be allowed to stop paying African American tuition holders from going to class while the KKK protests. Thank you.
Hilarious. Yeah, you're very fucking funny.
Cameraman 502
fucking idiot.
for $5 says Columbia University administration exercised its unlimited right to resist occupation. Thank you for the $5.
That's what we're trying to do with the Palestinians. see?
$5 from 𝕍𝖎 to say I will send you $30 throughout the debate if you mute Omar 𝕬𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜, like you should have muted him 4 times by now. Look, you guys
So,
love the
do me what?
content. Let
What'd he
me.
say? What'd he
I
say?
will mute you, Omar, if you don't shut up while I'm reading my fucking super chats. But
I
hey,
didn't hear what
only
he said. What did he say? Yeah.
He said mute you more
Jesus
often.
Christ,
That's
are
what
we
he
gonna
said.
get?
yeah, we're
Are
gonna
we
have
gonna
to
get
mute
fucking?
him.
We're gonna get better moderation for the fucking super chats than the actual debate. Jesus.
Yes, we are, because this is what makes my money. $5 from
Fucking
Cameraman
hell.
502 to say the people making genocidal chants just want divestment from Israel. Sure. Thank you for the $5. 8 Australian whatever. I don't know if they call them dollars. Australia is not real. Question for Omar. What mental hospital do you live in? I want to send you a care package and let the staff know you are desperately needing a hug. Thank you for the £8 things. I don't know. 𝕍𝖎 for $10. $10 for muting Omar. Thank you. And $5 from In Pursuit of Knowledge. Omar is a perfect example that being deprived of oxygen as a child doesn't stop you from being a Twitch streamer. Thanks, Omar. Okay,
Rude.
that said, let's get back to the concept at hand. I want to talk about
I'm-
free speech.
I'm the money man right here. See, everybody hates me. They have to
Apparently.
pay to hate me.
I want to talk about free speech for a moment.
Go ahead.
And I want to ask, like, were these examples of free speech or were these overstepping by the campus protesters, specifically at Columbia and at UCLA? Let's use those two as an example. Those are probably the most controversial of the protests that I'm aware of, at least. So, again, I want to toss this first to principals, and then counterpoints, and then the other side gets to go. Go ahead. What do you think? Free speech?
Again, I think you have to break it down incident by incident, and the timeline is important, right? And the other thing,
I guess,
wanna
where
be
does it
clear.
stop being free speech, in your opinion?
I think it stops being free speech when you're trampling other people's right to share the public commons. That's basically my bright dividing line. That's why I want the police there in the first place.
Yeah.
Make sure that if somebody else wants to assert their opinion back, they have the ability to do that. It's supposed to be content neutral. So if they're having an unapproved protest that says, we support XYZ, and the other group wants to, stage a counter protest that says we think that that's genocidal, right? You know what? I'm
So,
content neutral. If you're
hold
allowed,
on,
if
hold
one's
on.
allowed, the other one's allowed. You just have to basically
So do
take
you
turns.
think the people at the Woolworth counter that were beating up black people when they ordering coffee was allowed? It's the same thing. You have
What
the
the hell
blacks
does
they were
that have
trying
to
to
do
order.
with what I just said?
Well, he said that the people, the opposite, have the right to be there. So at Woolworth, when black people are ordering food and getting smacked around by
No.
other
To
protesters,
have the same right to peaceful
you
protest.
can't
Not the
you
right
can't
to-
put it. It's not that you don't want no fights. The whole idea is to prevent violence. If you want to protest, counter protest, go someplace far away, a little bit far away, and do your own shit. You don't have to talk to each other.
Yeah, but the
That's
point
it.
is we're talking about other Columbia students who are saying we don't
That's
agree
what I'm
with you and we
saying,
would
because
appreciate it if you would leave.
they were trying to provoke a moment. They were trying to provoke some anti-Semitism shit. They wanted to get some Jewish kid beat up. They said,
I
"Remember that girl?"
cannot say I cannot say enough times you can come back. Come back tomorrow. Just go home today.
Why they should come back? Why? I mean, this is the whole idea is to force a
Because they have the
conversation.
right to speak too.
They wanted to negotiate with the college for divestment issue. They wanted to see where the money. It's very
Your side
simple.
said earlier that the point is to be disruptive and make people uncomfortable.
Yeah,
if
yeah,
you
but
keep coming back, you're still doing that.
but these people
You're
can't.
There's a reason it's called time, place, and manner. Okay.
These people were sitting. These people were sitting in one spot. I tell you who was disruptive. The other American Jews who went to Brooklyn. They blocked traffic, and they were chanting "Let Gaza live." These are Jewish Americans for what is it called? I think it's Voice for Peace. And they got arrested. They were disruptive. Yeah, disruptive traffic, and they all got arrested. The whole idea, ladies and gentlemen, is these people were giving voice to the voiceless. Hold on. Don't you notice all the protest and demonstration is all in the Western world? All the Arab streets are quiet. Nobody's allowed to demonstrate. Don't you guys get the idea there's something wrong here? That an Arab world are not allowed to go out and protest. College campuses in Arab world are scared. Not even only Yemen, because we're fucking crazy. I mean, we're shooting at missiles all over the place. We go out, but don't you notice that Western society is saying this is not our value. What's going on over there with our money and our weapon does not represent us. We don't want to be part of that. What's going on over there? We don't want to support what's going on over there. We don't want to give more bombs. What's going on over there? We don't want to see no more death.
I
and destruction.
understand,
What's going on
Omar,
over there, okay?
that's the
That's what we
protest, but
want.
that's not
Thank
what
you.
we're
There are
talking
no
about.
Iranian protesters. I get it. We totally forgot that there are some people who actually nut up and take the responsibility to take the consequences when they want to speak power.
It's okay. We're not saying nothing. They went to
Being
jail. They went
asked to
home.
move is not an imposition on you.
They didn't get executed. What the
But
fuck?
hold
They're all
on,
home
principles.
already.
No, let me interrogate this because me and principles have a disagreement here. If I am going to continually ask you to move, right? Continually asking, well, you can't protest here. Nope, this is inconvenient. You can't protest here. At what point does that become too much of an imposition on your free speech? It can't be we can ask you to move continuously until you're only in your home. There has to be a limit, correct?
Of course.
So if someone
again,
isn't
you
obstructing
need to think about this from the
entrances,
perspective
let me
of
finish.
Columbia University.
Sure, but let me finish. If we have protesters who aren't obstructing, and I'm not saying they weren't, right? We've seen videos of them doing this, but say they weren't. They weren't obstructing walkways. They weren't obstructing access. They weren't destroying property. They weren't hurting or being violent. They may have been loud to some extent, right, where they're chanting during the daytime and things like that. Why call the police, or why have the police more specifically? Why have the police make arrests? In that case, if they're not obstructing, destructing,
Whoa.
or
Nobody said arrest
or
them.
hurting.
Nobody said arrest them.
Did you
But
see
the
the
protests,
president?
but they
Actually,
were
plenty
being
of
arrested.
people have said arrest them.
No, they get arrested when they throw bottles at police officers,
They're
and
in
then when
trouble.
they interfere with that person getting arrested.
Do you think
but
that's
plenty
all
of
that
people have
happens?
called for their being arrested, and I'm not just talking random people. I'm talking like members of Congress have called for people not throwing bottles at police officers to be arrested.
That's irresponsible. Like,
You
I'm
know,
not defending that. What do you want me to say?
I agree. Yeah. No, I'm just saying.
fair
When you say no one's calling
you
for them to be
can't
arrested, I'm
control-
saying very powerful people are calling for them to be arrested.
No, that he's posing that question to me specifically. Like, when did you hear me advocate for
Okay,
that?
that's
I
fair
said
enough.
they
Well, when
have
Greg
to go
Abbott-
home. That's not being arrested.
I
Guys,
would like to
For
contribute.
pity's sake, I sent you
Guys,
the sentencing recommendations last night.
only
for the people
violence-
who were
the
arrested
only,
at Columbia. Virtually everybody is getting off with a slap on the wrist.
The
Almost
only-
everyone who got arrested is getting. There's one
they're gonna
category.
go
The people
home.
who were arrested outside are getting basically a fix-it ticket.
Yeah, that's all it
Yeah,
is.
because they're
Hold
fucking
on,
rich kids. Yeah, they'll be all right.
But
Yeah,
Texas-
exactly. And the people who
The
are
only,
arrested inside the building, hang on, the people who are arrested inside the building are potentially facing another fix-it ticket
Trespass.
situation. So you're
Hold
still
on,
allowed.
hold on.
You're still allowed to be in the category of you're just a
Okay.
dipshit. But they're
Well,
also
well-
now facing a Class A misdemeanor and a Class D felony.
The only tough guys
Wow.
were in Texas.
Class-
Hold on.
hold on.
The only just
Omar,
one word, a
you
couple words.
went off on a rant for a while. We got to get the ball to
Just a
other
cou-
people. We got
All right.
to. We got to have more
Yeah.
back and forth. Let's pass the ball to
Diversity,
Counterpoints because he hasn't answered my question at all.
He doesn't make any sense anyway. So.
Ha 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 ha.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, this is all free speech. So I'm good with all of it. The thing is, so if we're talking about content, I think that the line has got to be like specific calls for violence, right? So I think that general calls for violence, even if they meant from the river to the sea in a genocidal way, Okay, it's fucked up. We should criticize them. We should criticize them with our speech. Okay. But
Not
once you start
genocidal,
criminalizing all
no.
that shit, hold on. Once you say, oh, from the river to the sea is genocidal language, it's harmful, we can't
No,
speak
it's
it
not.
anymore.
No, it's
Then
not.
at that time, hold on, holy shit. Then at that time, the Zionist project from a certain perspective becomes genocidal because they're talking about taking territory and dispossessing people of land and moving them off of their territory and doing settlements and all that kind of shit. So then
And
you
they have the
just
same
can't even
slogan.
then you can't even have the conversation because you have two sides of an important issue that is deserving of analysis that can't talk about it, because if they take a hard stance, it's necessarily violent or genocidal, and then you can't have any kind of conversation whatsoever. So this is all fine in the public discourse. What I said before at the beginning of the conversation, what I will say again, is that if you want to talk in the public square at a certain assigned place, okay, awesome. If you want to do extra legal or extra procedural protests, then expect to suffer legal and procedural consequences. That's
Okay,
what I've said
yeah,
since the
okay.
beginning. That's
Okay.
what I'll say again.
I want to toss the ball
No
to
problem.
Kevin at this point and let Kevin get in a little. A lot has been said, both from principles and from counterpoints. What do you disagree with here?
What do I disagree? Well, far too much to get into. In terms of it being a free speech issue, yeah, I think most of this is free speech. Obviously, once you start taking over buildings or land or whatever, it becomes extra legal, and therefore I don't think would actually fall under, technically speaking, the First Amendment. Although we don't even have that here, so it would be fucking weird. But regardless of that, one thing I did just want to mention, which is broadening it out, so apologies to Wick on this one, but the media response to this has been a fucking disgrace, frankly. I think the almost lockstep I see from pretty even liberal fucking characters
Yeah,
in the media
worst.
is the reason that, I mean, A, the media is fucking despised and will continue to be despised, and B, when your newspapers fucking crumble and when your TV stations go to the wall and you end up fucking unemployed, journalists of America, you did this to yourselves. Bravo. You're sowing the
Just for
seeds for your own
clarity,
destruction.
just for clarity,
I
what
used
do
to
you
be
think is the? I'm talking to Kevin, Omar. Just for clarity, what do you think is some of the more egregious examples of the media covering this in an inappropriate way? Can you give me a few examples?
Oh, Scarborough on
Oh, thank you.
MSNBC, I think.
Yes.
I mean, that guy can literally go and throw himself into a wood chipper in Minecraft. Frankly, he's the awful.
I
human
remind
being.
you, we're all
I
on
saw,
Twitch today, so
see,
but
it was
continue.
I said in
hypothetical.
Minecraft. I said in Minecraft.
Just
I don't
keep
think
it-
that works
clearly
anymore,
a
but sure.
gamer. He's clearly a
Okay.
gamer, and I'm just saying, you know, if he wanted to, he should. Anyway,
You know,
I saw, what was the CNN guy, the bald guy, Smokonish, I think his name is. I watched a segment he did, and it's just, and again, these are sort of on the liberal end of things. You'd expect Fox News to be out there doing their thing. But, I mean, some of the liberal commentary from the United States, and indeed from Britain, have been essentially sounding like Fox News people. And again, you're just turning off the newer generation of people to your already dying formats.
But don't you think that if
Fuck
there
you.
is a majority of the media, right, a majority of the media from all sides, left, right, and center, in this case, let me finish, Omar, please, for the love of fucking God. Okay, but do you not think that maybe the reason that they're doing it isn't conspiratorial, but mainly they're just calling balls and strikes and saying, well, yeah, this is just so obvious.
No, I don't think
that
it's conspiratorial.
Right, left, and center.
I'm not
We
saying
can,
it's conspiratorial.
well, let me finish real quick. I understand. Maybe that was
was
a loaded term. I apologize. But when you look at the media,
No,
like,
I know what you mean, though.
yeah. When from left, right, and center, they're all seeing the same thing and to varying degrees. And I've seen look, from my perspective, I've seen a spectrum of coverage on this. Right, it hasn't been all the same, but you seem to be getting the same.
Just send me some of the pro-student stuff, because I've not seen
Sure,
any of it.
fire.org. The fire.org is a really good example of they're not super mainstream, but they're respected that have stood up for the Texas stuff.
I know
that
what
called
you
out Greg
I know what
Abbott
you
for
mean
that.
when you say. I know what you mean when you say conspiratorial, in that you know, there's some sort of thing behind the scenes coordinating. I'm not going down that path at all. I'm not in that kind of mind frame at all. The point I would make is that there is a concrete material interest that everyone in the kind of media commentariat space, that kind of section of society, have similar interests. It's not that there's some conspiratorial direction of the opinion of these people. It's that they all exist in the same kind of media ecosphere bubble. And so you get a lot of things that when they challenge orthodoxy, like BLM or like, I mean, back in the day, like Vietnam or whatever, you get a similar response from people whose lives depend on the cushiness of the situation continuing. That's the point I'm saying. They're far more interested in, I think the MLK phrase was it a comfortable injustice than an uncomfortable peace, or something like that, whatever the phrasing was. And people in the media class are far more interested in these students just, you know, you have your little protest and you go home and nothing changes. That's all they're interested in. And that's, again, sort of betraying a huge section of the American population.
I wanna respond to this from Counter and Principles. I'm really curious. Do you think that
he's
the
right.
media
We just think it's
coverage-
good. Like, yeah, so like, by the way, I'm probably more pro-Israel or pro-Jew in this circumstance than our lefty compatriots, but I do agree that Israel is kind of a sacred cow in American media. If you start criticizing Israel, then it gets conflated with Jews as a whole, and then as a result, you're called an anti-Semite, and then you can't have a conversation about it. So I agree with them there. So while I think that there's real examples of anti-Semitism, legitimately like fucked up shit that the alt-right would have been ecstatic to have said a few years ago, I think that I think that it is a sacred cow and it makes the conversations more difficult to have. So for instance, like I think Israel having a military response to October 7th is reasonable and justified. However, at this point, we do have 30,000 civilian casualties. It seems like there were steps that they took to destroy infrastructure rather than preserve infrastructure. And it also seems like there were times that they could have reduced the hardship on the civilian population of Gaza, and they actively chose not to. So it wasn't justice, it was vengeance. Now, I might understand their sense of vengeance, considering you had 1,000 civilians massacred and gleefully paraded through the streets. But part of what hopefully will prevent World War III is us realizing that we're all human beings with human instincts. And as a result, not every single Gazan is a fucking hardened war criminal who cheered on children getting fucking murdered in their cribs. And that's the kind of hatred you have to have in order to justify what will likely happen in Rafah in the next week. There will be extremely fucked up shit that happens.
Can I ask, just ask, because I mean, obviously you're American, so it's sort of to get your interest on this. Like you say, I agree with you that it's a sacred cow, but my feeling is, as an outsider looking in, and certainly from the polling data that I've seen on this, it seems to be becoming far less of a sacred cow, especially amongst younger people. It seems like these protests are part of that, I think, significant zeitgeist change on this issue.
I think it's also World War II. So hold on. Another sacred cow in the American zeitgeist is World War II, in which we romanticize the narrative like, oh, we went up against the Axis powers, we went up against the Nazis, and weren't they so terrible for being genocidal? I was raised on the heroic narrative of the World War II generation, and as you grow up, you find out that the heroic narrative is not all it's cracked up to be.
How old are you?
And then on top of that, hold on. And then on top of that, you kind of you lose that generational memory where it's not the Allies saved the Jews during World War II from from the Nazis. Hey, here's actually all this fucked up history that's associated with it.
Well, I wanted to get Principal's response as well, but just to interject, if I may, briefly on this, I think that
racism. Go ahead.
Omar, I promise you, you'll get to you.
No, I'm just joking. I wanna make you laugh.
I promise. Okay.
Go ahead.
But when it comes to the media coverage specifically, I think that there is a tendency to favor Israel in certain ways, but we also have a media bias, media interests, and again, this isn't conspiratorial. They have interests, financial interests, to cover the controversy. So to paint protesters and things like this in a more light kind of coat of paint than they normally would, right? Than they would take with a politician or things like that. And this has generally been the case that we've seen Aside from Fox News, that's an outlier, but it's generally been the case that they have had pretty preferential coverage of protests in the past, right? It is specifically these protests that have begun to the page has kind of started to turn on this, where they aren't running as much cover for the violence that happens. And that's why you do see scenes like you did where you saw the protesters who were chanting for there is only one solution, Intifada revolution, and things like that. Before, that would have been painted as a mostly peaceful protest and things like that. But now you are seeing more highlights to that. But I would say that goes against a lot of the instincts of reporters for the last 10 years in America, specifically, to cover protests with the glamorized First Amendment thing that they think they have been. But I want to get Principal's thoughts, and then we'll go to Omar. So Principal's thoughts on this, and then we'll go to Omar. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I think there's way more than one sacred cow in to your point, they are trying to sell newspapers. They're trying to sell clicks. So they'll sell rage bait, but generally speaking, there are a few topics that just generally get them themselves, the media, bad press, so they just don't cover it. It is what it is. I do have a game bird sized number of bones to pick with you though over this fire thing. So I did want to get a little bit into the University of Texas thing. I do my best when I'm gonna like have strong feelings about stuff, and you've seen me having a shit fit on Twitter over the way that this has been escalating, and that I thought that we needed to get police involved way sooner. So when that one went down, I went out and hunted that out. You saw how fast I handed you back a link when we were arguing about this. You can hear the cameraman from his own camera. That was on the website of the Fox affiliate that he works for. They had the recording from his camera when he got pulled down and got arrested. He did exactly what he's supposed to do. He let himself get arrested peacefully. They reported on it, and I think it's a little weird. It's a little strange that everybody in the media is happy to report on the fact that a reporter was arrested, and yet there hasn't really been any indication that again, like they threw the book at him or something. My understanding is that the original charge for like why he was being detained and arrested in the first place was because a police officer in front of him indicated that he felt that the cameraman had pushed him. So you can see in the beginning of that video that a cop standing behind him basically puts a hand on him and starts to pull him to the side because they're escorting a whole bunch of people out. He's detaining him. He's just pulling him to the side, but because of the camera on his shoulder, he falls over. I think it's a tragic situation, right? The cop perceives it as, resisting. The guy's just trying to keep his balance. It's unfortunate. The whole point is we're not seeing them file a whole bunch of civil rights charges and the cops aren't throwing the book at him. It just was what it was.
So, one, we don't have enough time to show how many charges are going to be filed or lawsuits that will come into. Speaking of Texas specifically now, I don't want to. This doesn't apply to Columbia. This doesn't apply to the other campuses. This is applying specifically to Texas. The cops should not have been called. The university president at that case was not okay. It was an escalation for him to call the cops. The people who were protesting had simply walked out of their classrooms. They weren't obstructing. They weren't
You're
making
missing
destruction.
context here.
If I may, right? I let you go. Let me finish. Right? They weren't destroying any property, and they weren't being violent. They had simply started. And when the president of the university, I forget his name, the University of Texas president, when he was talking, what was his name?
His name's Dave.
Dave.
I was joking.
Oh,
never mind.
Whatever.
Jesus.
University of Texas president, whatever the fuck his name is, what he says was he was afraid that it would turn into another Columbia situation. So there had been no evidence of this happening. He had simply seen the reporting from and the coverage of what was happening in Columbia. No, this is what he says. This is what he says in the transcript. I can give it to you. I can link it to you. But this is what he says, and the reason he called was he was afraid it was going to turn into another Columbia situation. And so he was worried that was going to happen, so he called for police to help him de-escalate the situation. Greg Abbott sent in the riot police, right? and we all know what
Well, it's
happened.
Texas. Go big or home.
Yes,
Yes.
I don't think.
Now, am I allowed to break in yet? Because you haven't said anything that's incorrect. You're just missing context, and that's what
Missing
makes
context.
this.
What I am saying is that I can promise you can go. The context here that is important, as these students had not broken any rules. They had failed to maybe get a permit, but I don't give a shit about that, right? They were trying to give their First Amendment freedom of expression, and I think that the government being called to arrest them and to stop them was antithetical to free speech and should not have happened. Whether or not it should be legal for the university to call the police does not matter to me. The legality does not matter. I am talking from a moral standpoint. Whether they can do it doesn't, just because you can do a thing doesn't make you should do a thing. Again, this is specifically for Texas. We're not talking about Columbia. We're not talking about UCLA. Those are different situations.
His name is 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙.
𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙, thank you. Now you may respond.
Pretty much the same name.
And then we will go to Omar and expand this. But you may respond now. Go ahead.
Would you like another pie for your own face?
Okay.
Because I'm about to invalidate your entire rant with one word, sir, and then I will explain the context. Yet. So the fact pattern here is that the students had applied for a permit to protest. University initially denied the application. So far, so good. Again, you have your basic fact pattern correct. The students had been making statements on social media that they intended to replicate what was happening at Columbia. Intent had already been expressed. That is why the university asked for the police to show up. The riot police came because they were predicting that it might turn out like Columbia. And there is footage of protesters at that event at U of T with like wooden boards pushing against the riot police. Fucking with a cop is a really quick way to get arrested.
Look, anyone who was fucking with a cop and got arrested, I have no sympathy for. I'm not talking about the arrest.
It was like 26 people.
But they did not just arrest or detain or go after the people who were fucking with them. And people who had not resisted arrest were getting fucking tased. And I have a problem with that.
I agree with you. Okay.
Go ahead,
in
Omar.
response to Logan about the United States media, yeah, the media is biased in the United States. And I left legacy media. I left them a long time ago. I'm a recovering addict of MSNBC. I wasted 10 years of Trump this, Trump that, Trump this, Trump that, and I left them. The whole idea that Morning Joe is yelling, Morning Joe is equivalent what Fox and Friend was to Trump. He used to watch it every morning. Now, rumor has it that Sleepy Biden, genocidal Joe, watches this Morning Joe. That's why he's always screaming at the. He's actually screaming at Biden when and everybody wants to get a word. The ADL, everybody goes to that show because they know that our friend General Joe watches it. And Joe Scarborough, whatever his name, he's a grifter. He's a right winger. He came to power in the 1996 Republican Revolution, the contract with America with New Jersey. They're the one who destroyed politics, the scorched earth policies. Anyway. The river to the sea shan't is done by the Israeli Likud. It's in their charter. It is in the Palestinians. Okay, to go to Texas, you see Texas, we have an issue. You have a governor. He's dickless, so he's in a wheelchair, and he has this energy that he wants. He's either taking people on a plane, so he wants to show that he's tough, and he sent those people to beat up those kids for no reason. If they were that tough, why didn't they rescue those kids for an hour and a half when they were getting killed and murdered? That's whether in Valdez, I don't know, this village town inside Texas.
Oh, these things don't have anything to do with each other.
Because they're cowards. Hold on. Relax, man. Relax. Not everybody. Okay, you used to be a good cop. Fuck it. Okay. And the whole idea is
I'm going to call bullshit on this one because we got the same thing back about comparing January 6th, and you just did the same thing where you compared a situation with a gun.
Because they're cowards. What? They would be enough. They would be.
Yeah. So what does city police have to do with the governor?
Because he ordered it. He ordered
the governor ordered law enforcement to stand down at Uvalde.
Oh no, he ordered.
This is the first I'm hearing about it.
he know that I'm talking about the students in Austin, Texas, in the college campus. He ordered the riot police to go in there. Everybody knows that, and he's always begging for attention. He's always doing all these stuff to create attention for himself. You know, if I was in Texas and I just fucking take his wheelchair and deprive him from moving around anymore,
to-
it's like
get to
a
the point,
fucking
Omar.
Let's not.
Oh,
There's no
Kevin,
need
you
to
got
be going
anything
over
to
the
say about that
fucking wheel.
ableism right there, buddy?
Yeah,
because that, no,
well,
no,
you literally shouted over me saying exactly that. Leave the wheelchair shit out of it, man. Come on now.
no, I am. Guess what? I'm
Look,
disabled,
he's a
too, so I can do
prick.
that.
He's a prick whether he can use
Exactly.
his fucking
No,
legs
no.
or not. Just it's not relevant, you know.
The problem is
Keep
that
his
the
wheelchair
tree
out of
didn't,
it.
the tree that fell on him did not do his job. It should have hit him in the head.
Hold on,
instead of
Omar, come on. We are on fucking Twitch.
I hate
This
him.
is the second
Okay,
time you've
that's
pulled
not
this
bad.
shit.
That's not
You will
bad
not
stuff. What are you
threaten my
saying?
monetization. I
You're
promise
not saying
you.
anything.
I don't care if you interrupt.
Oh,
Well, I
okay.
do care if you interrupt me
Oh,
and you cause the
okay,
show
hold
to be
on.
a problem.
You
But you
know
keep
what I'm
doing
saying?
this. I cannot have you making statements
Okay,
like
hold on.
that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you outside. I cannot have that on my Twitch channel. That cannot be said. You can't do that. Jesus Christ.
Wait, was he
Look.
talking about killing Abbott?
Oh,
What did he do?
Yes.
Look. I'm just saying. Maybe
me.
some people like the tree. You know. I'm just.
Damn.
Listen,
No,
okay, I want to point out this is the second time that I've been on a debate with Omar that he has gotten kicked because the last time he was advocating, I will word it tactfully, that Egyptian military forces take action against Gazan civilians in order to make sure that they stay inside Gaza.
No, you can say what other people said. You just can't advocate it
Yeah,
for.
but
So let's see what he said.
I won't.
He said that the people who were running away, the civilians who were trying to escape the bombings in Gaza, should be shot in the head as traitors. That's what he said, and that's what I had to fucking.
Did he
kick him
say
for.
that?
Oh,
Oh, that's psychotic. What
yes.
the fuck?
Well,
so
of course, people can get hyperbolic when they're in passionate debates. We'll see in
damn.
that charity, but still, that was a little intense.
okay.
Oh.
Damn.
You
I'll
want a
bring
tempo
Gibbs in if
resetter?
you give me $100. How's that? I'll monetize it. But we are let's keep going. Well, let's pass the ball to Kevin.
Let's do a Hassan. 9/11. Am I right?
Uh-huh.
Come on now.
Deserved or not?
Well, you know, if you're gonna dress like that, what can I say?
Fuck me. Okay. Where were we?
Jesus. Okay, sorry. Give me
I
a
don't-
second,
I
gang.
don't
I have
fucking
to
know
reset a little bit. Hold on. Thank you for the $20. I appreciate that. Let's go to
Jesus
the
Christ.
responses on campus. So, Kevin, let me ask
Yeah.
you directly, right?
Go on.
Given all that has happened, how do you think that the police and the media specifically should have handled this better? If you were king of Americas, okay?
Well,
how
when?
would you have
I
handled
think when is the word. Come on.
Oh,
now.
fair enough. When?
Okay. In terms of the police, obviously it's on a case-by-case basis. I mean, I know that sort of sounds like obfuscation, but it literally is, right? The police have to judge things on an individual basis, and indeed the campus authorities, in terms of calling the police in, or the governors and all the rest of it, have to do it individually. I've seen some things that I think are fucking enormously excessive and unnecessary from the police at various places, but I'm sure they acted in perfectly reasonable ways in other places. So, a mixed bag, basically. In terms of the media, look, we've seen essentially lockstep on Israel in the American media for a very long time. I think that's beginning to change. And ultimately, I mean, we've seen it with 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜, who's the British guy, wasn't he, that used to work for MSNBC, started speaking out a little too fervently about Palestinian rights and maybe Israel committing some war crimes, and essentially was fucking fired for it. If you're going to shut down and clamp down on even relatively mild pushback on an issue, you essentially send it underground, and it creates this aura of, like you said, the kind of sacred cow aspect of it, right? That needs to change and is beginning to change. But I don't know that the legacy media is set up to facilitate a change in its own approach to it either. So you're going to end up with essentially a kind of almost generational war between younger people who want a more balanced discussion on this and a dying legacy media. We've seen absurd shit written. I read the John 𝕾𝖍𝖎𝖙𝖘𝖍𝖔𝖜 piece in the New York Times where he was complaining that there's the was it 2 minutes and 40 seconds of silence piece of music where you're supposed to contemplate the extra noises around you and all the rest of it. He was saying, I couldn't teach that to my class because they were being loud outside. Isn't that the fucking point? Isn't that the point? Is you're supposed to contemplate the noises outside of this non-existent piece of fucking music. So contemplate the fucking point. What if that's the biggest concern you have in your fucking class? I'm sorry, you can just continue to do your fucking class. It's not that big a deal. Again, the lockstep uniformity in the American media needs to fucking stop, because that's clearly not representative of the American people. I think we saw a slight change in after the election of Donald Trump. I think a lot of news organizations realized, oh, there's a section of American society that we're not talking to here, because Donald Trump was demonized.
Yeah, but I want to
called all the names under the sun, and people adjusted to the fact that clearly there's a significant chunk of America that isn't being represented.
But I keep hearing
I think
this.
they're going to have to do the same thing now for the Israel issue as well.
But I keep hearing this, right? That like the mainstream media isn't really talking about the mainstream Americans' values, right? They aren't speaking to the mainstream Americans. Most Americans voices aren't being heard. I don't see actual evidence of that, right? I don't see any actual evidence that like there is a sizable portion whose views aren't being represented, at least somewhat, in the American
I don't know.
media.
I wouldn't say it's the majority. I think the majority of Americans still are, I mean, for one of a better phrase, passive Zionists, I guess, whatever. Like they're passively.
Yeah, most Americans are kind of are soft pro-Israel.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's just the way.
And that hasn't really changed. In fact, it might.
No, exactly. But there's still, I think there's a significant chunk of American society for whom that isn't the case, and it's going to become an increasingly large number. If you look at it's not just the overall.
Is it? You think these protests are going to make people less pro-Israel?
People are.
I think it's a generational thing
pro-Israel. Yeah, the younger you are, the less pro-Israel you are. Now, that's not to say there aren't a significant chunk of younger people who are very pro-Israel, of course, but the younger you are, the less pro-Israel you're going to get. And so as the boomers begin to die out and these younger people become the politicians of tomorrow and the media elite and the teachers and all the rest of it, the American society is going to develop in this way.
Yeah, but that's
because there's not that same percentage coming through.
Well, but Kevin, that's assuming that people's political opinions don't change or evolve over time. Like, I'm gonna embarrass myself here, but I was a fucking ANCOM when I was a kid, and you've heard me today, right? Like, yeah, I was that revolutionary kid, and here I am defending the police.
Oh no! So hold on, I want to. I want to give Kevin some. I want to give Kevin some ammo here. So, like, changing attitudes on Israel doesn't mean that they're gonna like want to abolish the state of Israel, or they're gonna want to watch like a ethnocide in Israel or anything like that. But I do think that like the World War II narrative. I'm a little bit older than some of you guys. The World War II narrative was like Israel has to exist because of their ties to the Christian religion, because they're Jewish. This is their ancestral homeland. They got fucked over in World War II. Israel's right to exist is almost unquestionable, both in evangelicals and in Jewish circles, and I think largely within the American military establishment, because they want like a default friendly ally within the region or whatever. I think as people grow up, or as the generations change, the World War II generation dies out, they're going to ask, why do we have this like hyper unique tech military relationship with one country in the Middle East and North Africa, to the point that we're willing to sacrifice our relationships with the rest of the region in order to support this country? So I think that's going to turn into
counterpoints. Stop. Yeah. Like, you're only saying that as if the relationship between America and Israel is changing. The relationship between Israel and a lot of its neighbors are changing. We can look at Saudi Arabia. We can look at Jordan.
I think we've been praying for this for decades.
Israel is actually becoming, for better or worse, much more accepted in the region than we've seen at any other point.
But I think this motivates.
Recently.
Well, I was about to say, I think part of the motivations for Hamas and for the Gazan conflict and for all that kind of stuff is because that normalization, it basically it normalizes what Israel's doing by creeping into the West Bank through settlements and by taking over Gaza slowly and having military occupation and basically like this slow strangling of the region. I'll concede like 90% of Palestinian geopolitical grievance. I just draw a line at like executing civilians and taking hostages and suicide bombing and orienting your culture around like militarism. I think there probably could be like a two-state solution, but I know they're not interested in that. So yeah, that's where I draw the line.
Yeah, what I
ahead.
will just say, just to answer, I forgot. Sorry, apologies. Principles before politics. To answer your point, I agree that people change over the course of time, and I think you can see a similar process happen from the radicals of the civil rights era and the Vietnam War. They become more, for want of a better phrase, upper middle class. They get a bit more money, they move to the suburbs. They don't necessarily lose all of their political opinions, but they become more kind of moderate with it. And I think a similar sort of process will begin to happen with this generation. But the thing is, that doesn't fundamentally change their opinions towards Israel. They just become less militant about it. And so you're getting people who are very, very pro-Israel dying off in the boomer generation and being replaced as the political sort of elite of the country, economically and culturally and educationally, with people who are less pro-Israel. And that will undoubtedly have a huge change in the American political establishment, because we're seeing pressure from a lot of people, both on left and right, on America's funding of, say, the Ukraine war, or various other sort of proxy situations around the world. America sends a lot of money to Israel and gives a lot of political defense of them at the United Nations and more sort of generally around the world, at the expense of their relations with a lot of other countries around the world, a lot of huge section of humanity which really doesn't fucking like that shit. If you look at the UN votes, they're overwhelmingly to have sanctions or some sort of
Like from
punishment
Russia,
towards Israel
from
for its
Iran,
crimes.
from China.
Well,
from...
no, I mean even Britain. Britain didn't veto the resolution of the UN. We only abstained on the Security Council. Now, Britain is enormously pro-Israel in terms of its government. Its people are slightly different. So even to the point where Israel is becoming such a pariah that even Britain doesn't really want that stank on it. We're happy to just let America deal with that shit.
This is not a new thing. Like Israel being a pariah, at least on the global stage,
well, no, it was
only
beginning
partly
to change.
due
We just
to its
talked about
actions.
that. They've signed peace deals with the likes of Egypt and Saudi Arabia, what would have been considered lifelong enemies up until 20 years ago. They were beginning to become a part of that regional base or whatever, whereas now they're turning themselves into this. I mean, no one wants that thing, that stank on them
I just don't think that
they're becoming a PR fucking disaster, and Joe Biden might very well be tanking his electoral fucking chances with this shit.
I don't see that.
know?
I don't see an election, at least in America, where someone supporting Israel will make you less likely to win.
No, it's not a matter of supporting Israel, because both parties support Israel, and Trump is arguably far more pro-Israel. My point is, with younger people and with more progressive people, people of colour, people who the Democratic Party need to vote for them, a significant portion of them might be put off from voting for, as Omar called him, Genocide Joe. And if that could be enough to swing one or two states, that could cause him to lose the election. I'm not saying it's a huge portion of the population. I'm saying it's going to hurt him.
I disagree. We can look at his poll numbers, his approval rating specifically. The more he's spoken out against these protests in Colombia and things like that, the approval rating is actually going up. Okay, and we can. I don't know if it's causal.
That's a slightly different issue.
Correlative, right? That we see when he's spoken out against the far left.
That's a domestic law and order issue. That's him saying, I don't want law and order problems in the United States. That's him protecting U.S. soil, U.S. institutions.
Which is how he's going to swing it. You know that, right? Like this is how.
Well, maybe, and I hope it happens. By the way,
these things are not mutually exclusive.
Donald Trump is not. Donald Trump will be worse for America. I don't want him to win, but I think Joe Biden is almost doing all he can to try and fucking lose.
Okay, I don't think that your guys' positions are mutually exclusive. I think saying that there are more progressive people who basically would want Joe to act more aggressively towards the Palestinian side, and less less on Israel, and then that might hurt him with that base. And that base is probably necessary to the future of the Democrat Party. I think that's probably true. I also think that the Biden administration is probably making a calculation right now where being a fucking normie is probably like, tepidly pro-Israel or whatever. That's probably going to win the general at this point. And so that's
Probably,
part
yeah.
of the reason why they're trying to thread this needle successfully or unsuccessfully.
I
Okay.
agree with
No, I
that
don't.
completely.
I don't.
The-
Sorry, I don't claim that the numbers are so massive that it's definite or anything like that. But we've seen like Wisconsin fall by 20-odd thousand votes, Arizona by X number of votes. It really does not take a huge number of votes in any particular state for the statistical quirk which we saw in 2016 to happen again. That's not impossible, and I think he's threatening to lose the general election
it's
with
by no means
not,
certain.
and it's not just Israel. Obviously, it's the economy and all the rest of it, but. He's really fucking things up right now, and it's not. It's
okay.
If you were a betting man,
hold on.
I don't think you'd be. I don't think you'd be super happy. I don't think you'd be super happy putting money on him right now.
Obviously, look, this is a narrative that gets pushed around, which I don't think has a lot of bite to it. That he's fucking up. That people are super like hating him right now. That he's doing terrible. He's
not
actually
massively popular.
doing quite
He's not
well.
super popular, is he?
He's not popular, but his policies are. And if we look at the approval rating from Trump, it's comparable, right? Trump isn't doing better.
Yeah, no, Trump's
let's
hated,
say that,
yeah,
right? Yeah. And so when we look at it, is it a sure
your
shot?
defense of him
No,
is
absolutely not. Can Biden lose? Yes, absolutely.
That's not great.
Yeah, Biden can
really
absolutely
a
lose
flex.
at this point. But I think that like to say that it's like hanging by a thread, I think we're overplaying our hand when we were saying like, oh, he's in super danger. I just don't think he is.
It's too far out to really say it's hanging by a thread because anything can happen. I mean, they're both old.
Well, we saw tweets tonight or last night.
Could happen, but...
Last night and this morning. Getting back to the subject at hand, we've seen multiple people tweeting, right, that, oh, look, Joe Biden just lost the election. His response to the Columbia protest just lost the election. His response to all this just lost the election, right? And I think that's bullshit. I think that, in fact,
I think that is bullshit.
Yeah,
I don't think you can say this far out that anyone, unless you come out
and a lot of the people who are saying I was going to vote for Biden, and now he did this or didn't do this, and now I'm not going to vote for him. I don't believe they were ever going to vote for Biden. If what happened last night at Columbia changes your mind and changes your vote, I don't believe you when you say you were going to vote for Biden. I don't think you were. I just don't.
I don't. Obviously, I can't say, but I try not to judge things based on random fucking idiots on Twitter, say, because they're not really representative of anything other than some deeply damaged people, basically. So I don't know. Yeah.
Okay, Principals trying to get in there, and then we're kind of winding down. So go ahead, Principals.
I think there's something to be said here still about again the folks who are affected by particular issues and their likelihood to vote for Biden. One thing that you said it yourself, Kevin, that it's in the youth cohort, right? Well, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but the youth cohort has a pretty bad reputation for not turning out to elections.
Yeah, no, it's awful. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, what I'm getting at is that a lot of them weren't going to vote anyway. It's performative to say that they're all upset about this and they would never vote for Biden because they weren't planning to drag their ass to the.
Well,
to your point about people on Twitter representing deeply damaged. You know what I mean? It's somebody wanting to join a cause but wanting to do it in the way that requires the absolute least amount of effort. Cool. I already wasn't going to vote. I can now be a cool person by saying I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden.
I think there is a complacency, and I'm not necessarily saying you completely, but there's a complacency within the Democratic Party establishment. I think we saw it with Hillary Clinton when she went on whatever fucking talk show it was, basically saying to get over it. I'm sorry, have you learned nothing from 2016? Just saying get over it. I'm not Donald Trump isn't fucking enough. You need to give people a reason to vote for you. And whilst there are, I think, probably people who are full of shit and larpy dickheads who are never ever going to vote for him, or frankly, trying to get those people's votes is probably going to lose you millions of more votes in other areas. So I don't think there's necessarily the all of the people who are
Yeah, I
saying
wouldn't.
this or that will do this,
I
but I
wouldn't.
think there's a significant number or significant enough that it could potentially swing states, and I think it doesn't. Not only I think the morally right position to be that Israel needs to be reined in, but actually I think for the long-term future of the Democratic Party, they need to pull some fucking shit together in some
Well,
point.
but I also think Connor called it right that the median voters' opinion on this is basically tepidly pro-Israel. Like they're
Right,
not,
Yeah.
but hold on.
you know, raiding in the
I want to
streets.
like, but I want to agree with Kevin in a way, and then I just kind of want to thread the needle a little bit. So I agree with him that if you don't pay attention, this is the kind of thing that could fuck you, right? Let's say that there was a audio recording leaked where Joe Biden was just like, yeah, you know what, fuck the Gazans, we don't give a shit, we have enough Jews that we're going to be fine, don't worry about it. Then I seriously think that like that could fuck you in Michigan
Absolutely.
or Dearborn or any of those locations. So he has to be sympathetic to the progressive and Gazan cause. And then I think that likewise, though, you can't be like, yeah, BDS now, fuck Israel. Like, you know, it doesn't matter. Let's sanction them. Let's join the ICJ and indict them for genocide. Like, obviously, you're probably going to lose a healthy chunk of the Jewish base, which, let's face it, they're probably active in the Democrat Party. And then two, it
And
goes too
all
far in the
middle
other direction.
America.
You have to, yeah, you're gonna have to thread that needle. No, I was being a little bit of a dickhead when earlier you were saying like not you, but the other gentleman, he was saying like the media elites and all that kind of shit. But this is kind of like the poison pill of the rhetoric that's going on right now, where any of the criticism that was being thrown rightward rhetorically, where if you were talking in like quote unquote dog whistles about Jewish people, do you like I think you see how easy it is to just reverse this two-sided blade and fucking stab lefties with it, because all you got to do is
Oh
point
no,
to a few
trust me.
fucking schizos on the internet and it's like bam,
Yeah.
we got y'all. Some
yeah.
lefties have worse rhetoric than the dissident right did in 2016.
Well, I mean that's arguable, I guess. But you trust me, as a British person who's just been through the experience of Jeremy Corbyn, the sort of most leftist-leaning major leader we've had in a long time, who had anti-Semitism weaponized against him to destroy his reputation and destroy any chance of him becoming leader. I'm very well aware of the way in which people on the right and people in the media will weaponize anti-Semitism. And the thing is, it's really sickening because they don't actually give a fuck about anti-Semitism. They don't actually give a fuck about Jewish people for the most part, frankly. They're using it as a stick to beat people they disagree with politically.
I'll tell you that. So for this conversation, I kind of did use it as a stick because I thought it was funny to indulge in the irony. But I do want to say that, like, so I can talk shit about suicide bombing, cultural issues, religious issues, whatever. Like name a demographic, I can talk about the beef, and I'm not scared to do it. However, at the end of the day, I do think each one of these people from different demographics are human beings who do have like an inherent worth. And as a result, that worth needs to be protected. So I can like meme and shitpost, but if somebody starts talking about like actual slaughter or excusing actual massacre or terrorism or suicide bombing or justifying some of the actions on October 7th, then I'm jumping in the opposite direction as quickly as I can.
And
That being said, I think, sorry, last point. I think that there is, this is something that 𝕵𝖎𝖎 helped me understand, is that violence by state
It's the
entities.
goblin porn is awesome.
Yeah. The goblin porn.
please, for the love of God, can okay? No, finish
Not
your
goblin
point. Then
porn,
I have a
hold on,
thought.
yeah.
Then we're gonna close it.
is that when you throw a flag on violence and you throw an institution on violence, people oftentimes automatically care less. And the truth is you should borderline care more because you have to hold those people accountable because they're using the sanitization of the state to justify their violence.
Okay. Well, thank you for that. Like my issue with, and we're gonna get to closings, I promise you. But I wanna poke back on Kevin a little bit, right, and a little bit on Connor too. Is I understand that there are a lot of people who conflate anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. Yes, that happens. I've seen it happen. Any criticism is Israel is seen as anti-Semitism. That's just not true. We know that's not true. But it would be equally untrue to say, right, that all criticism of Israel is not anti-Semitic. There are plenty of people who use, well, I'm not saying all Jews. I'm saying those particular Jews, right? There are a lot of people who hide behind this shield of, well, I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm just anti-Zionist. And I think that we have allowed this on the left to fester in a way that is going to bite us in the ass. It's going to cause real structural harm. We are going to lose donations. We are going to lose support of the people, because a lot of people can see through the bullshit. And a lot of people will see the double standard we hold to people to. When we see Nazis marching through the street, right? And easy, call them racist, call them all these things bigots. It doesn't matter if they use quote-unquote dog whistles. We know what they are. And we call it like we see it. But when we're scared to do that with people who are pro-Palestine, who happen to also be anti-Semitic, then it really creates this cognitive dissonance, which people can smell bullshit a mile away and they can really see through it. And I think that's what's happening with a lot of these protests. Look, I am against the police involvement in the nonviolent cases. I have fought with Principles Before Politics about this. I've fought with a lot of people on my side about this. I am I'm pro free speech, even if the speech is something I disagree with. But I have to say, I disagree with a lot of what these protesters want to do. I think what they're saying is something that should be criticized. When we talk about people not chanting death to anyone in particular, that's not true. And I'm not talking about River for the Sea. I'm talking about people holding up signs like, these people should be next, right? Al-Qasim, target these people next, right? And I'm talking about people talking about globalizing the Intifada, which was super violent. I don't know if you know about the Intifada, but it wasn't peaceful.
There's LARPy revolutionary, quote unquote. There are LARPy fucking dipshits. Now, to be fair, as a person who went to college, a lot of people are like that when they're young. They're just fucking idiots. I don't necessarily even think most of them even understand really what any of that means. Now, there are clearly fucking anti-Semites and disgusting genocidal freaks amongst them, I'm sure. But I think they're relatively few and far between. And I think to try, and I'm not saying you are doing this, but I think it has been done by a lot of people in the media, especially, to tar thousands of well-meaning, intelligent young people with the stick of a few fucking dipshits amongst them, I think is really fucked up, and it's the same tactic that was used against MLK.
But
there was some fucking bad people in the civil rights
even though most
or in
police,
the Vietnam.
Even though most police are peaceful, the bad apples spoil the bunch.
People on both sides.
Yeah, just because there's mostly good doesn't mean.
This was the point I was making about. This was the point I was making about the idea of the police being not Judge Judy, you cunt, Judge Dredd. Judge, jury, and executioner. Yeah. The point is, there's a difference between being a private citizen engaging in largely peaceful protest or being an armed and potentially, therefore, in some respects, given the protection of the state, to enact violence upon people, whether justifiably or not.
But just from
there's
just
a very
from an
significant
optics,
threshold of the way in which you should act in that respect.
Sure, but just from an optics perspective,
comparable.
and from just a messaging control, I think that what we do when we fail to call out the people who are the few bad actors, and I agree with you, it's not most of them, it's a few of them, but when we run cover for them, when we fail to call them out, what we're doing is we're enabling them, and we're allowing them to be the loudest voices. If we want, if you believe, if I may, if you believe, right, if you believe in the Palestinian cause, you should be the first to be kicking these people out of the movement, to be exiling them, to be... Look, if one of these fucks at Columbia had said, you should vote for Joe Biden, they would be sitting on the side. They would have been kicked out of that encampment faster than you could shake a stick. They would have been apologizing, having to write a statement about how sorry they are that they had hurt so many people for their microaggression, about talking about Joe Biden, who is Genocide Joe. These people know how to police speech. They are just not doing it when it comes to Jewish people. They're just not. And that is a concern. And I want that to change. But that being said, that's my closing statement. I want to give each of these people lovely individuals, the ones who didn't threaten my monetization.
Can I do Omar's?
I will give you double time. Sure, I'll give you double time if you want that. Yeah. But for now, gang, if you like the stream, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for the donations. Give me more. It's how I continue to make money. Counterpoints and I are both catching a check from Progressive Victory, just to let you know.
Shills of the Biden camp.
Shills, okay? But I'm just full disclosing that right now. I don't think I did it at the beginning.
Is that actually true? Or
no, where the shill thing is the shill thing's a joke, but I do get a check from Progressive Victory. So,
Oh, okay. There you go.
but with that said, we'll close it out. We're gonna start with principles before politics, and we'll let Counterpoints close us off. Principles, Omar and Kevin, and then Counter. That's what we'll go. Principles, go.
Appreciate the opportunity to be here as always. Where we disagree on this is not about the freedom of speech. It's about what the meaning of the sharing of the public commons is. I can't stress that enough. This is one of the reasons I say the police should be there. It's just to make sure that things don't turn into what we saw. I don't think anybody on this panel is rooting and cheering and, rootin' tootin' shooting like Yosemite Sam for police to jump in there with tear gas. So, hey, let's all take it down a notch, keep the temperature a little bit lower. It's probably better for everyone involved. And keep protesting. It's a good thing to do. It's healthy.
Well, thank you for being here. Where can people find you if they want to find you?
At Principles BP on Twitter. I just talk. I'd have nothing to sell. Oh, and I am an unpaid shill for Progressive Victory.
Well, thank you for thank you for coming. Thank you for being a part of this discussion. Thank you for not threatening my monetization of the channel. Kevin, go ahead.
I'm in support of the protests. The students, I think, have genuinely lifted my spirits as to the direction of American youth in many respects. Fuck Joe Biden. No, I don't know. I've basically said everything I want to say.
Okay.
God bless America.
Where
and
can
these
people
United
find you?
States thereof. I'm Kevin Logan. You can find me at KF Logan 1875 or just in your local sewer, probably.
Hanging out.
Sewer socialism.
Vibing. Okay, well, thank you for being here. Really appreciate your perspective, and thank you for not threatening the monetization of my channel. Next
It's
up.
not finished yet.
Well, sure. Last but not least, Counterpoints. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I wanted to make one primary point, and I'll reiterate it again. So I love freedom of speech. I think freedom of conscience and freedom of speech is one of the best things about America. I think that, or the United States of America in particular, and I do think that it should be exercised. And there are very serious topics that we have to address that are international and domestic, and we need to be able to do those things. However, I do think that extreme times call for extreme measures. I think the protesters understand that. And so the reason why they're doing what they're doing is because I think it's so necessary to do so. So they're using extra legal and extra procedural means in order to make their voices heard, because I think the situation is so serious. What I'm saying as a Republican, somebody who believes in a republic and the rule of law, is that if you go outside the law, you should expect consequences. That's part of the reason why you're brave. That's part of the reason why you believe in what you believe. That's part of what makes you righteous. If you're actually right. Don't expect society to just pump the brakes on because you just happen to be right. If you go extra legal or extra procedural, then expect to suffer the consequences. And then if you want to find me, I run a YouTube channel called Counterpoints 40K. I largely break down science fiction things. It's been a little dry recently, so I'm moving into some new content. The new content that I should be releasing tomorrow is I made a bolter from the Warhammer 40,000 universe. I took a semi-automatic 12-gauge shotgun. I put some 3D printed plastic furniture on top of it to make it look like the science fiction weapon. I blew up some chunks of meat with it, and I made a fantastic 10 to 12-minute video that y'all should enjoy. So if you like science fiction violence, then go ahead and check out my channel, please, and support it, because I want it to get 1 million views, and then I want to go full-time.
God bless the Emperor. Gang, check him out. He's great. Thanks for coming, gang. Tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern, we have a show for you. We're going to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. Is it racist? Has it gone woke? We're going to talk about it.
Nerd.
It's going to be fun. We had the 40K debate on going woke last week. It was great. It was a great show. And this week we're going to do Dungeons and Dragons. It's going to be great. Tune in tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. We're going to raid out to Riley Grace Rochong. She's streaming. I don't see her streaming much, so we're going to raid into her.
That's cool.
Well, there he goes. I didn't kick him, did I? No, I don't think I did. Wait, bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, she's not allowing me to raid her. What?
Ha, you racist.
Wow. let's go to Hutch. Damn, I'm gonna have to talk to her about that. Okay, say hi to Hutch for me, gang. I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Sorry, I'm murdering bugs, so I'll be here for a second.
Yeah, do your thing, man. We need to go diving together someday. It'll be fun.
Hell diving?
Yeah.